concept that we're doing. It's going to be a collaboratively built setting that can play host to numerous different sci-fi TTRPGs, from Starfinder 2E when it finally drops to Stars Without Number to Scum and Villainy, and it's kind of anything in between. And what we're going to be doing today is kind of making the bones of the galaxy, kind of setting what this galaxy is like, what the worlds are, the factions are, the history, how how the powers that be work within the galaxy. So one of the things too, before we dive in completely, that we had the crew do is that we were able to go through and kind of highlight some of the sci-fi pieces that we wanted to make sure were included. So some of the properties that we liked before from existing sci-fi franchises, and a few of the things that we wanted to for sure be in the galaxy. So I'll call out mine first, and then I'll kind of pass it around the crew and to see what you guys think. For you guys chose for yours. But the three questions that we had were: what were your favorite sci-fi settings? What do you enjoy in a sci-fi setting? And then what do you want the galaxy to be after we're finished? And then after we do that, we're going to dive into like this expansive world building question thing that we've built and kind of see what we come up with together. But for my favorite sci-fi settings, if you've watched the channel for a while, even if you just look behind me, Star Wars is probably my favorite setting. It's one of the only ones I love to GM for that's not a setting that I've made. It's one I can just kind of spend hours doing with, so I love that one. Mass Effect's another big one, as well as the Halo franchise and setting. I love that as well. Basically, for the settings, I like deep lore, conflicting factions that are all kind of a little bit in the gray as much as they can be, all with different competing visions of what they want the galaxy to be, and all trying to shape it to their whims. I always love kind of the competition between multiple powers. I always think that makes for good stories. And then for what I want the galaxy to be after we're finished, is I want it to be something that's capable of working in multiple different systems. As we mentioned, these are, actually, one piece I should mention, these are going to be short campaigns. So these are going to be 3 to 5 sessions long, potentially a little bit longer if something goes over. But I want these to be kind of quick, short story arcs that we will kind of cycle through the TTRPG systems as they fit the story. So kind of utilizing those to support the story and mixing it up quite a bit. And that's kind of one of the things I really want for the Galaxy, is to be able to support that and have some really cool factions that fit within it. So I'll pass it off to the crew. Who wants to go first for kind of your favorite sci-fi settings? What do you want in there? Or what do you like in a sci-fi setting, and what do you want the Galaxy to be?
I'll take that up first, because we actually had some similar answers there. My favorite settings, of course, are Star Wars, Halo, Mass Effect as well as Warhammer 40k. That one, I do quite like it a lot. But one that's a bit more odd, it's not exactly a setting in itself, but rather the game Stellaris, which is sci-fi based, where you make your own empires and there's a lot of randomness to it. How it deals with the freedom of like how to set up your own galaxy and dealing with the various threats therein, I find a beautiful thing, really.
Nice.
For the main themes and concepts I enjoy greatly, well, lore is a big one. Deep diving into that. Cosmic horror is another one, which can be taken a lot of different ways and a lot of different avenues. And the exploration of the psyche of those who have to live in that galaxy, as well as the psyche of the factions therein and how those interact with each other on the grandiose scale or the micro scale, person to person. I find those incredibly interesting. And to what I want for the galaxy, well, a setting, to read off exactly what I wrote down, a setting capable of telling a variety of stories, a variety of genres, while as time ticks on, we watch the galaxy unfold, grow, and change through faction interaction.
Nice. And for the viewers, the name may change. The Galaxy is supposed to be a working title. I've started to grow. I grew to like it the more I kept seeing it and saying it. So the name may change, but it may stay the same. Who knows?
I like calling it the galaxy. It's very grandiose.
Yeah, it gives it a sense of being the galaxy. I don't know. It's got some standing power to it.
Yeah.
Perfect. Who wants to go next?
Go next, maybe. I'm going to be a little odd here, and so Star Wars and Warhammer 40K. I think those are going to be common. Obviously, great settings, great games. But the other one I think that has influenced me a lot, probably because they redid it as I was growing up, but Battlestar Galactica. So maybe I'll age myself just a little bit on that one. But I love that setting. I think if you've never seen the series, go watch the series. It's fantastic. Not the one that came out in like the 70s, the one from like the 90s. But part of that is that it's such a, I don't want to give any spoilers because if you haven't seen it, you have to go watch it. I would just say the galaxy's very old. And I love that the galaxy is very old because galaxies should have history. And it's so old that you've lost the history. And that's one of the themes I really enjoy. Is that, civilizations come and fall and come and fall. And then, a million years later, you don't know what came before you. And so I thought that was very cool. And then the other one, it was another TV series, highly recommended, The Expanse. And the reason I like that one so much is that the dynamic between the different people and how they got there. You've got the Belters who live in the Milky Way and they're out there mining, generally considered kind of, the poorer people in society that were sent there. You've got the people from Mars who have kind of grown up in this harsh reality and that's kind of shaped who they are. And then you've got the people from Earth. And you can logically think through how that happened and why those people are the way they are. And I love it. I love it. If you've never seen the series, go watch it, especially the first 2 seasons. It's amazing. But you can just the science doesn't matter, right? It's sci-fi. We all know it's probably not real. Maybe it is. But you can logically say, okay, these are the rules of the galaxy. And you can walk through and say, oh, yeah, I understand the Martians. I understand the Belters. I understand, the kind of the elite Earthers. And so that one, fantastic. And so that's kind of what I like about sci-fi.
Definitely, that's one of my favorite pieces too for sci-fi. Is it doesn't have to be scientific, but it has to make sense.
Exactly.
If you can't figure it out with the science chart, that's fine as long as it's logically consistent. Which was, I'm not going to derail, is one of my biggest beef with the sequels. But let's move on from that really quickly. So who's next?
I can go next.
All right.
So besides some of the ones already mentioned, one of my favorite sci-fi settings is the Numenera TTRPG, which we got to play last week on Tegan's channel. That was a ton of fun. Not as much spacefaring, but I definitely think there's some things in there that could work well in a more spacefaring focused story. It's like 1 billion years in the future. So technology had, like you were saying before, that lost history thing. It's like there's technology everywhere. No one really knows how it works. And they're just trying to figure out how to survive in this strange environment. Some other things I'm really like the kind of the setting of the game No Man's Sky. Just an expansive universe that you can just explore and things are going to be different everywhere you go. And one thing I also like in sci-fi is when technology is done in a way that feels realistic, even if it doesn't exist yet or is handled in interesting ways. I'm a big fan of Isaac Asimov's books and the way that he comes out with interesting technological premises and then spins a story out of that. And also probably my favorite series, I guess right now, because I just finished the last book in this series, but Brandon Sanderson's Cytoverse books is a sci-fi series in a completely separate universe than the Cosmere stuff, if you've heard of the Cosmere RPG that was announced recently. But that does a lot of really cool stuff with forgotten history, really interesting technology, and also supernatural powers with a sci-fi way. And I won't give too many spoilers, but definitely there's going to be some inspiration from that series for me, I think, as we go into this. But yeah, so major themes for me are exploration and technology, and fleshing those out in different ways. And I think the key feel that I really want for the galaxy is the idea that the universe is, or the galaxy, I guess, is so massive, and like there's always somewhere new to go, always some place you haven't been yet that's not cataloged, that's not understood. And the idea, like I want it to feel big and feel like nobody can really control all of it. People try, but there's just so much. There's always more space, more resources, more places to go. I think that would be really cool if you can capture that.
Nice. All right, Alex. Yeah.
Hey, all right. Well, so there's a lot of overlap in this group with Warhammer, Halo, Star Wars. I got a few other ones. I like Dead Space. I love that whole just, this is something weird. We don't understand it. And it does weird things. How does it work? We have no idea. Along with that, like the Alien sci-fi series, that whole, just an alien that treats other things like, I don't know, just that Helldivers, that sort of, I love the super patriotism for super democracy. That I know that it's a riff, it's a parody. Don't care. It's I love it. It's hilarious. But like, depending on how things go, plausible. We'll see, or maybe we won't. I don't know. Maybe we won't be around for it. But along with that, and also another sci-fi setting is the whole XCOM. If you're not familiar with it, it's a turn-based RPG where aliens have invaded Earth and you're fighting back. So I don't know. I guess when it comes to those settings, a lot of crossover is the unknown, and aliens that don't necessarily come in peace, because let's be real, they might not. Some might, but who's to say? When it comes to themes that I appreciate in stories is things with deep lore, right? Who doesn't? Religious and kind of cultish vibes, because I love it when there's just this offshoot of crazy, and their crazy has a point. Their crazy is actually true. It just blows my mind sometimes. It's very fun. And I also love the whole uniting of unlikely allies to come together against a common and greater foe. That to me just hits a lot of my checks a lot of my boxes. And as for how I want the sort of galaxy to shape up, I still don't know. I would obviously love a big playground, so to speak, but I think there's a lot of potential, and let's see.
Nice. Well, you heard some of our inspirations for the galaxy. I feel like I need to play Warhammer 40K. It seems like a lot of people, I've never read or played anything with that system, mostly because I only heard about it from like the miniatures piece, and like I've got enough money sinks. But I feel like I've got to read that, or at least read up on the lore behind.
Good luck. There's a lot of books. Yeah, a lot of books.
We'll say 3D printers have revolutionized that process.
Yeah. Or if you don't want to engage in the tabletop, they've got a lot of video games too that can kind of help you dip your toe and see if it's your cup of tea or not.
They've got a TTRPG too. I saw a little bit of it at Gen Con, so I'll have to. Hi, Marks. If you're more into the action sort of third person, Space Marine 2 just came out, and it's a treat. I'll leave it at that. Tasty treat. The next section would be, now that we've kind of gone through the introduction, kind of just, you'll see that the galaxy is pretty much a blank slate right now. We're going to be going through several categories and kind of answering questions. This is going to be a collaborative process. We'll be kind of bouncing off each other with ideas, seeing kind of what we can build together. So the first part that we're going to do is just get a little bit of order in and roll a few dice today. Everybody find a D20, and we're going to do a quick initiative.
Oh boy.
Oh no.
Let me go get my crate. Eey.
All right, I'll be back.
Perfect. While we're getting our dice, definitely shout out in the chat some of your favorite galaxy or your favorite sci-fi settings as well, as we kind of see what you or the viewers are thinking.
How many viewers we got this time, Tegan?
What's that?
How many viewers we got this time, Tegan?
All right, right now we're at 4 concurrent viewers, but we've had 20 views so far.
Oh, that's awesome.
So shout out to everybody hanging out with us.
Fortunately, I'll be using digital dice. My dice collection is in another place right now, but I'll have to.
All right.
I only got the 1d10. That should be fine.
All right. So just straight D20.
Straight D20.
That's not it. Here.
Got marine nice today.
15.
All right.
18.
Chris, what'd you get? I got 12.
17.
Someone please roll higher than me. I don't want to go first. I will if I must. I obey the roll.
All right. So they're in a crate somewhere else. I hope you're okay with digital die.
Oh, go for it.
Okay. Then.
Because for the viewers, what we're going to be doing first is like put a couple of quick questions in that are going to be yes or no questions that are going to help us frame the galaxy. And what we're rolling for is to kind of see what order we answer these questions or who answers what question. And we'll kind of build these out as we go. But just a couple of quick ones to help us frame things. And where'd you wind up?
That got me a 15.
Okay. High initiative rolls today. Sick. I'll let you decide. Keith and Alex, you guys tied. I'll let you guys decide who wants to go first.
I got an 18.
I mean, they both got a 15.
Oh, sorry.
So between the two of them on that side, but Burger, you're up first. Chris, you're second. Keith, Alex are next, and then I am pulling up the rear on this one.
Probably can't see that. Oh, camera's over. Nat 20.
Nat 20. So it'll be Keith and Alex, which look at how I wrote it down, so that works. Sweet. So the 5 opening questions that we have, these are yes or no questions. We'll come back to these as we go. But to kick it off, Burger, the first question is technology in the galaxy becoming more advanced or declining?
That is a good one. Can I ask a question for clarity, or would it be just best to say one or the other?
Well, clarify the question, but we don't know anything about the galaxy itself yet, so I don't know what clarity we could provide on that side.
For declining, could it be that we are still trying to improve, but the level of technology that has been found thus far is still so advanced that we're not getting there yet?
Definitely. And so we'll be able to kind of define these questions. So if you do want it to kind of be on a decline, but still kind of looking for more, you could definitely kind of say that we can discuss it in.
Trying to stop from sliding backwards.
Yeah. I'll say declining for now because I think that'll be interesting.
Perfect. So in the state of the galaxy, the level of technology is on a decline, and we'll figure out more about that as we go. But Chris, you're next. With this, does Earth exist in this galaxy?
Let's go with it does exist, but it hasn't been contacted by most of the it's not the focus of the story. Maybe it's just like it's out there. Earth is somewhere in this galaxy, but like it hasn't really gotten in touch with most of the galactic civilization or something like that.
All right.
A lonely Earth.
Perfect. So we've got a galaxy with technology on the decline, the same sharing the space with Earth. Next question is: was there an advanced ancient civilization that preceded the current galactic factions, or not? And Keith, that's you.
Ooh. Uh, was there an ancient civilization that preceded us?
I thought you said you loved that crap. I don't know why you're not just yelling yes.
The answer is going to be yes.
Okay.
But can I say it preceded us and it was a long, long time ago?
Definitely. Perfect. Next question. Do the various species of the galaxy share a common ancestor? And that's you, Alex.
Ooh. That's a big one, ain't it? Common ancestor spanning solar systems. Like a physical ancestor? Because I'm leaning towards maybe a species that essentially planted the seed towards kind of moving the dominant species forward.
That works perfectly. And I can't remember if I mentioned this or not, but what we'll do is we're going to come back to these questions as we get a little bit further and define some features in the galaxy. So you'll be able to kind of put more, a little more lore behind this as well.
All right.
For all of these answers too. Sweet. So yeah, we got advanced high. We've got a common ancestor that most of the various species share. And then I've got: are there any true higher powers within the galaxy? And I'm gonna go with yes. We'll flesh it out. Not gods per se, but figure out what we want to do with that.
A couple things came to my mind.
Oh yeah.
Perfect. So just a quick run through of what we said. Just I thought these questions where I was kind of going through these quick yes or no's would help just frame us to give us a starting point for what everybody is thinking. So we know that the galaxy is in a state where technology is starting to decline. People are looking for new pieces of tech to expand it, but right now it's just starting to lower the overall technological level. Earth does exist in this galaxy, but kind of off the distance, it's not been discovered yet by the main powers that be. And we've determined too that there was an advanced civilization that preceded this age of factions, but definitely far, far in the past. And we also agreed too that there was a species that a lot of the current factions of the galaxy, current species within the galaxy, share a common ancestor, but it sounds like a little bit more of a gardening approach with trying to advance some of the stronger or advance their own version of the stronger species. And we did agree that there are going to be higher powers in the galaxy. So that's setting the stage. The next category, and viewers, the categories, and I may put this on the site a little bit later, just what questions I put for my notes on how to build it out, just in case anybody's curious. But there are six main categories. We've got Galactic Facts, which is going to be our next one, which, Birder, you're going to have the first question of your choice within. We've got the Power. Because this is a sci fantasy system, there has to be some type of mystical power that people can call upon, but we don't know what that's going to be for our galaxy. The next after that is technology and resources, which, Keith, you've got. Major factions, we are going to build out as a group. So we could just get a chance to put in a major faction that kind of fits with what's come before, and see and flesh it out a little bit within this the stream. The next one is Galactic History. Which, did I skip something? Oh, Galactic History. That's Alex. You get to get the first question in that and kind of set the tone on that side. And then closing questions will be me. I get to throw in, pick my choice on the first closing question. Before we dive in, do we have any immediate questions?
Sorry, which one did I have?
I think you got skipped.
I'll skip. So Galactic Facts, Burger, the power. Oh, Chris, you were the power. So I started talking about the power, but I forgot to say who had the power. So Chris, you're the power. Keith, technology and resources, which is hard to say. Alex, Galactic History, and then closing questions. I'll get to pick my my choice on that one. And basically, I laid out the questions in Discord, so you guys can pick either the first question, which I thought would be kind of the one that opens it up the most, or if there's a question in there that speaks to you more, you could open with that one and kind of set the stage. So, Burger, Galactic Facts. The first question is, what is the most desirable resource and why? Or you can pick any of the other questions in that category.
Let's see. How are the categories defined again?
So in the discussion tab, if you scroll up a wee bit, you'll see them all set up there. Galaxy building questions. It's a long list. And how are you not saying unobtainium? That's I mean,
So let me see here. I might want to pick a different question. Let's see.
some of the prominent species, factions, wonders.
Oh, and wonders too. That's another group one. Each of us will get to pick one kind of wonder within the galaxy and throw that in.
Actually, I might stick with I think I'm going to stick with the resources, and we can always the name isn't permanent, right? We can always spitball different names, right?
For sure.
So for a name of it, for a placeholder, I'm gonna rip something straight out of Stellaris for this one. Zro. Just because I like how it sounds when said aloud.
Zro?
Zro.
Bless you.
Out of curiosity, how do you spell that?
Shoot, I don't know how to spell that to the Z.
ZHROE. That's or ROW. I don't know.
ZRO.
Perfect. And why is Zro so desired of the galaxy? What makes it special?
I imagine it is what makes the more ancient technology tick. It is the power source of that. I imagine it to be almost like a thick, like slime mold kind of thing that can be turned into powder to fuel some of the more ancient technology.
Do the people of the galaxy, or do most of the factions know how Zero works? Do they know that it works, or do they know kind of the science behind it?
That is a good question. Should that be turned to me or technology?
Your question on this one. So, actually, we can open it up to the group too with this. So, if you don't have a big answer on that, what does the group think? Do most of the factions understand Zero, or is this just something that they've found either ancient descriptions for that it makes power go and just keep plugging it in, or is it something that's kind of mildly understood but not replicable? What do you guys think?
Well, let me ask a follow-up question before then. Is it something that people actively know how to make or manufacture, or is it something they just have to find?
That's a good question. I imagine it would make the most sense if, like, technology is a bit on the decline, but they're still trying to catch up. If they're still constantly using ancient technology, quote unquote ancient technology there, so them being able to produce it would make that a little bit more sustainable. So I do like the idea that Zro is something that can be reproduced. Be that artificially or perhaps grown and harvested from something.
Or maybe a less pure version of it.
Okay, like that.
Like that.
And again, if you're looking for scarcity, I would wager something like, found after the death of a star, or something like that. Something that's happens, but it's not the most common thing.
I
I
like
kind
that.
of like the found after the death of a star angle a lot there.
And I mean, that can even lead into the what are explorers looking for? Stars that are on their last legs, or maybe
Or that can be put on their last legs.
exactly, yeah. Like, are there ways to accelerate that? Yeah.
I like that. Oh,
So
I'll
how?
stop. I was gonna just keep spitballing.
So yes, and
Yeah.
what if whatever the ancients are created pure throw, and we can synthesize it, but it doesn't last.
Okay. So
kind of like the row that's synthesized is like something that can like be used for short bursts, but like it's like our gasoline. But if you can find like that stars row, the ones of the ancients kind of like either created through collapsing stars, or at least kind of found the process to mine out of those collapsing stars, that lasts indefinitely, or maybe it's just very long enough lasting that you really can't catalog it.
I'd actually like to possibly counter that with that is what the synthetics row is made out of. So imagine what the ancients had to do to make their pure row.
Okay, I like that.
I mean, maybe they had to collapse a star in a specific way. Just throwing out ideas. I feel like we're gonna veer off into a lot of things.
This is good.
Yeah.
Definitely good. Sweet. So let me recap what we've got so far. And sorry, viewers, if you hear me clacking away. I am typing, keep notes, mainly so I have to go back and re-listen to myself. I hate doing that. So with that, we've got Zero, which we're gonna officially say, as long as we keep Zero as the name, it's ZRO. Power source behind the ancient technology. It's a slime, or can be refined into a powder. It can be reproduced, but it's far less pure than the initial. It's found, so the artificial way, or the way that it can be reproduced by the galaxy, is it can be kind of mined after the remnants of an exploding star, and then kind of pushed into the zero form the galaxy knows, unless you're lucky enough to find the ancient zero, which is just pure and pretty much everlasting.
Can I throw one more thing out there? And I had it and it just flitted away. Okay, so for the decline of the technology in the galaxy, or like they're declining, but they're trying to find more ways. They don't know, like the galaxy at large doesn't know how to harness Zoe and everyday technology, and they're trying to figure out ways how to, because energy sources deplete after a period of time.
I like that. So like for like the advanced ancient tech they're able to find, they can power it with Zero. It does amazing things, but for the things they're just capable of building on their own, it just
they can't stabilize it to work with it. And I'll throw something else in there. Attempts to make it work, considering it's such a powerful energy resource, experimentation is dangerous because of all the energy stored. It can blow up half a planet.
Let's not also forget, if it's taken from a collapsed star, imagine how radioactive that stuff is.
Yeah, very. It's dangerous to work with, and but the benefits, people are trying.
So we haven't got into factions yet, but at a high level, what do the factions think about people experimenting with ancient technology, then?
I imagine it's divided. I imagine some would be very for it. I imagine others would. Hell, I can see a faction treating the ancient technology as like religious artifacts that are not even to be touched. Like, we're not worthy of putting our disgusting appendages on this creation of the gods. Yeah, that kind of
the covenant.
Yeah, like that, and others that hate it and go out of their way to destroy. There's very different ways to go about it. I'm sorry. I know that I'm talking a lot.
No, talk more.
Okay. But
one thought I had is
Feel bad for
maybe
Tegan. He's just trying to type this up.
I'm sorry.
What were you thinking, Chris?
Yeah, to up the scarcity and danger of it, maybe there's some highly dangerous, highly predatory alien species out there that eats this stuff, and it's not like intelligent. You can't reason with it. They're just like these aliens going around trying to find this, and they just go after and consume it, and whoever is in their way will get killed on the way.
How big is it?
Wait,
Like,
wait,
are we
wait.
talking like space megafauna, or are we talking about like?
I know. I want to piggyback on that. I am totally ripping off Mass Effect here, but what if they're not biological?
Okay.
Maybe it's a remnant of that ancient species, and that's what they need to survive.
I like that. No, it survive, or like they were tasked by the ancient civilization to gather Moore's Row. So they're still doing their job. They're gathering the Zorro.
Yeah,
and
they're just still running on like billion-year-old commands to find Zro, eliminate all obstacles, get the Zro, and bring it back. Repeat indefinitely.
Now, I do want to pose whether or not this species would be technological or biological. Because if it's like a machine, that means if they're still coming, if they're constantly coming, they gotta be produced somewhere. But if they're more like biological or biotechnological, that right there, as someone who enjoys like creatures with body horror-esque designs, like the collectors, I quite like that particular angle of it. That these were perhaps at one point more biological than they are now. Modified.
I do love that, like that seeking it out. Like
So I'm gonna, because I think my answer is gonna tie into this for the technology. So I'm gonna jump ahead a tiny bit.
Right.
But what if AI is what destroyed the ancient civilization?
Okay.
And to counter it, they created a biological entity, whatever it is, that would seek out and destroy the energy source that powers the AI. It clearly didn't work, but that creature is still out there, or creatures.
So non-sentient program just destroy. That could also be like some factions could try and, like, even though you can't reason with it, see them as allies if they're trying to destroy more of this ancient technology, while others are trying to race against them to procure that technology and those fuel sources.
I definitely think that fits. I could even see other species trying to hunt these great whales because they probably have a lot of Zro in them if you could find a way to bring them down.
yes, ooh, that is another thing that ballsy explorers would flock to.
So I have an additional question. Should we treat these as like a singular main species where they're big space megafauna? Or should it be like each of these kind of space whales has inside of them what could be considered almost ground troops that can be deployed?
Oh, go ahead.
I like the idea that these things, if they're, thinking about them as like space whales, like flying through space, they don't really react much to, like, normal human-sized people move around them, except when they're directly in the way between them and Zro. So what if, like, these things are big enough to where, like, people have set up, like, cities inside of them or on top of them or whatever and travel along with them, as long as they don't have any of their own Zro with them, then they don't have to worry about it. And so there's these, like, colonies that just hitch along these things for rides, because there's all kind of interesting tech there. There's people who study it. Maybe some of the religious people, like, go on pilgrimages with the space whales. And as long as you're not messing with Zro, like, they're not going to bother you.
Research bases, yeah, I love that.
I like that a lot. So there'd be a lot of people either trying to hunt them, live with them. They're just building around like Zro and the creatures that feast upon it. That's awesome.
And I have
What
one
if
more
those
thought.
people treat them as gods?
Some
Oh,
sure
for
would.
sure.
Like that.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just thinking, like, this might be getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, but so these things, like, go from planet to planet trying to clean up the Zro to prevent, AIs from developing. That was like their original mission. So obviously they need a way to travel across different star systems. So what if these things have the ability to like create, like when they're like, oh, there's some drill in this star system over there, they can create like a wormhole for them to travel through from star system to star system. And these wormholes like stick around after they go through them. And that's really the main way people travel between star systems, is by going through wormholes left behind by the space whales.
So it gives like a almost like lanes you can go through, and you got to plan around
Right.
the trade routes. I like that a lot.
I
I
love
like that. I'd like to add to with that, like the space. We got to find a name for these space whales. But these space whales have done it so much, and some lanes so frequently that there's pretty mapped out world lanes, at least to the major centers of the galaxy, that they can travel without having to like hitch behind one of these space creatures.
I could even see a corporation trying to get one, to make one, to like go essentially
get enough throw, and they'll come
yeah,
after it.
yeah, hire like a clean like a road crew essentially, and just get enough of that stuff in one spot.
You can't reason with them, but damn, if you know how they work, you can manipulate them.
Yeah.
That being said, the unpure row or the synthetics row, or could we just call it S row? I don't know. The synthetics row. Does that similar enough to it that it would trigger their "I got to go get that" response?
I feel like it's kind of like one of those things where, like, the Piers Row, they will cross the galaxy to get it and just demolish it. Synthetics Row, if it's like in their nearby vicinity, they go after it. But otherwise, it's not really. It's more like a blood in the water thing versus like them truly like looking for it.
Yeah. Again, I'm harkening back to trying to make our space lanes. So like it's an investment in whatever, but I'm thinking, what would Wayland Yutani do? So essentially just compiling it and trying to get them to do that. I don't know if you get enough of the unpure stuff, it would be enough of a powerful whiff for lack of a better word, to get them going.
I bet a corporation. I mean, if you've got a fast ship, fast enough to keep ahead of it, you could find one and just kind of keep it on the hook.
Right. Then
I mean, probably a lot of people have died, but
yeah. I mean,
as a corporation, if you've got enough money, people do things.
I can see that being one of the more dangerous professions. The pavers.
Oh, I love that name.
So,
How
last
long did
big
the wormhole
point.
last?
Oh, wait, actually, sorry to interrupt. I do want to pose, instead of the workers who lead the whales being called the pavers, we could call the space whales the pavers.
Actually, yeah, that makes way more sense.
I like it.
Yeah.
The thing I mentioned earlier about like Earth not being really contacted by the major galaxy, maybe there just hasn't been a paver that's gone there yet. So that's like Earth is there, there's humans, and maybe there's humans other places because we have a common ancestor type thing or whatever. But Earth does not, no space whale or no paver has gone to the Sol system yet. So that's why Earth isn't part of this network.
Our sun's young and we don't have any row, so it makes sense why they wouldn't come out this way.
I'm gonna, again, harkening back to how different species got there. If we're gonna explain humans in the galaxy, I would say that these gardeners, whatever, they might come up with a better name later on, but they seeded similar planets with what they thought would be like the best, like essentially recreating the conditions for different alien species or our species on different spots. Like there's Earth-like planets in certain parts of the galaxy. Let's put a bunch of the same crap that we did on Earth and see what happens with whatever other alien species we come up with. Similar sorts of those parameters. They sought out these planets. They maybe it was part of their impending demise that they saw, and they seed. I don't know. I might be talking too much again.
No,
I'm going off in the narratives.
So I'll add to that though. So what if, as this ancient civilization is going through the galaxy, collapsing stars, if there was a species or a planet that was habitated, They collapsed the star. Good luck to you. And then there was a faction that felt bad and reseeded other planets.
I can 100% see a more empathetic part of that collective alien species saying, no, we have to find homes for them. We have to give them a chance to survive. And then trying to find the planets that would be most hospitable to them.
I like that concept. This is actually something I was thinking about a little earlier too. So kind of have one section that kind of the gardeners, and one's like reseeding planets, trying to make life thrive. And you got like the harvesters, the ones who just care about like getting in these suns, getting more Piers Row, and these two ancient civilizations both faded.
Yeah,
or maybe both faded. The harvesters could, they could still be around.
I mean, it could even be like the same civilization but different sex. I mean, the same thing with all the alien species we end up coming up with. I don't want them to be monolithic.
Oh,
I
sure.
want like, oh yes, I love working with other species versus get those Xenos the hell away from me.
I just had a terrible thought. I don't even know. Okay, so here we go. You can't travel to a place that you've never been to because there's no throw there. So they sent AI there to do it. That AI that's still the harvesters, they're still going about their business. Showing up, collapsing stars.
I like that.
Yeah,
That's horrifying. That is still out there. Does the galaxy know that?
Okay. So I think part of the whatever, again, harkening back to the specialized process for the collapse or whatever, maybe they're very aggressive towards anything that resembles spacefaring anything, because who knows what the galaxy looked like a billion years ago, and maybe that's why nobody knows how to do it the right way.
Definitely, I think those AI harvesters are still out there. And what I'd even kind of say too, like people probably still confuse like those harvesters with like the spacefaring creatures as our space whales. But these ones, like they're like, oh, if we just stay out of the space whale's way, it's fine. But these ones are aggressive.
Yeah.
Anything that's like technological around them, they eat, destroy, whatever they may do.
They repurpose for parts.
Repurpose for parts, yeah.
Could we consider this their own faction? Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I like the idea that there's two different ancient factions that were kind of competing with each other, and we're in the like remnants of their war in a way. And then each faction both had a sort of mega creation. The gardeners had pavers who connected the galaxy and huge row and things like that. The harvesters have these AI machines that can collapse stars that I'm going to call star eaters. So there's star eaters and pavers throughout the galaxy, and the current civilization follows the lanes of the star eaters of the pavers to new star systems. But a lot of times when they go there, there's a star eater there that just finished collapsing a star. And so you got to deal with that, or maybe wait for it to go away. But then somebody else might get there before you and get all the resources and the intro and stuff like that. So there's this like constant expansion of the galactic network. And always on the edge of it, there's these star eaters that are like a constant threat.
I kind of like it too with like the both species, like both of this faction that split, the harvesters and the gardeners, both made these creatures as like kind of from the harvesters as a fuck you to the galaxy. We're dying out. Enjoy our creation. The gardeners, they wanted people to have still a way to traverse the stars even after they were gone.
Oh man, I'm kind of bummed that it's going to be short campaigns because I just got an idea for a long one.
Oh, that's something I should ask. Tegan, will these resources be available to us as players in case we ever want to host our own games in this?
Oh yeah, for sure. Even with the channel too, in case somebody wants to do one of the short campaigns. Have at it. Well, I'm going to be, and for viewers too, I'm going to be doing I don't know how to pronounce it, Kanka. It's where I've got all my like pandemonium lore. It's this really cool like spot to store homebrew lore. And I'm probably going to make it public once we clean it up. That's probably going to take a couple weeks. So once we get into our first campaign, we'll probably have that up so you guys can see all the craziness that we've done. But I'm going to sum up a few things that we've done, and then we'll move on to the next question. We've made Zro, which is this powerful resource. We've also made a couple of we've kind of expanded on who that ancient civilization that preceded the galaxy was. We've got the harvesters and the gardeners, who both had differing thoughts on kind of how to keep the galaxy sustained, and both of them created their own creatures, the Star Eaters and the Pavers. The Pavers maneuvering through space, looking to consume Zroll, making wormholes for the rest of the galaxy to traverse. The Star Eaters also making wormholes, but they're going there to collapse healthy stars and make more pure Zroll. So we've got those pieces in. I think we've got that first question in. We're still on galactic facts, but we're going to go to our next question within that. What are some of the prominent species of the galaxy? And Chris, you get first go at this one.
Alrighty. Let's see. So I just want to touch on what we talked about before is that okay. So the way I'm thinking about what we've said is that the harvesters were going around blowing up planets, and then the gardeners felt bad for the species that naturally evolved on those planets. So the gardeners took those and like transplanted them to other places that didn't have as much growth. So like, for example, humans aren't originally from Earth. They're from some other planet, some other star system. And then the harvesters came and they're like, oh, that star's got a lot of Zero, we'll destroy it and take it. And the gardeners are like, oh, humans are so cool, we don't want them to die off. So they took humans and put them on a bunch of different planets in the hopes that they would survive in some of them. So now there's humans on a lot of different planets, Earth just being one of them. So I think all of the sentient species at this point are ones that are a result of that gardening process. So it's sort of a common thing to like meet people of a similar species to you that are just from a completely different solar system. In terms of specific species, I like I think I don't know if I mentioned this on the stream, but I mentioned it in our discussion before that I like aliens that feel very alien. And one of the ways that I think about that is like they use different senses or interact with different parts of physics than humans do. So one thought I had is a species that communicates via like magnetic waves or like manipulates things using magnetic waves. Like it can control magnetic waves and create them the same way that we can speak and hear sound waves. So I'm picturing maybe these species that are like look like a perfect sphere of like some kind of orb, like not fleshy looking, but they still like reproduce and are biological. But they use like magnetic waves, so they like hover around just using magnetics. And in order to like communicate with other species, they have these devices where they like manipulate the magnetic waves to create sound waves for humans to listen to and things like that.
I like that a lot, and it reminds me of All Tomorrows. Specific species there that got a little bit genocidal. Of course, we do not need to go that route with this particular one.
Two questions on that side. What do the species call themselves? And what is kind of their disposition in the galaxy?
I think they are generally very eager to meet and interact with other species. Like they're going to be the first ones to figure out your language, or a way to communicate with you so that they can have a normal conversation with you, and kind of pioneer that like diplomacy and like an exploration way. And so like they have, even though they're very different than humans or more human-like species, they are used to dealing with humans, and know all the like cultural things that humans might have and stuff. As for a name, let's see.
I want to just mention briefly, I'm doodling all the things we're coming up with on a little notepad.
Nice.
Mingasi? I'm just throwing a name.
Names are always the hardest thing for me in
Astari.
writing.
The grav, if they control waves, some species be mistaking that for like them literally controlling gravity. Just as a nickname for the species.
Yeah. Like, what was the
They
first
can
one
be
you
called
said?
something different.
Alex, what was the?
I threw out Mingasi.
So maybe like Mengasi is what they refer to themselves as in like their language, kind of. And because I said like they're used to like getting to know other cultures and becoming familiar with other cultures, they want other people just to refer to them as the Grav because that's easier for other people. And it would be kind of weird for a human to say, "Oh, there's a Mengasi," but for two like or something along those lines, maybe.
Or maybe their name is unpronounceable in the spoken word.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got the magnetic fluctuations for it. I like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Grav is what sound-based species or sound-based communication languages are used to refer to them as. But their actual name is something magnetic that's hard to pronounce.
Best way people have gotten it, like Worcestershire sauce, is made that.
Like
Perfect.
some scientists took a speaker and wired up the magnetic waves, and when one of them said their language, it came out sort of like Mengasi. But that's what we got.
Briefly, I do want to bring up just because my brain has gone like designs. What would these things look like? Brought up before was almost like a perfect sphere, and the thing that came to mind was lobsters and armadillos, the way they curl up, and the idea of like they're just curled up, but they can like splay out, but they normally don't because that reveals all like the parts that are far more vulnerable.
Yeah, that makes sense. The because I was thinking about like a sphere because like they don't need legs or stuff to move around; they can just hover with magnetic waves. But for like eating and things like that, they like open up to like consume food or something. But yeah, it's like they're very tough exoskeleton, and so when they are curled up, they're pretty difficult to enter.
I want to know, do we want them to look horrifying face-wise when they're uncurled, or do we want these guys to look adorable face-wise when they're uncurled? Because both are equally valid. Personally, I'm leaning more towards the adorable because lobsters and armadillos came to mind. I can get what I can work my magic. I can. Oh, and I should specify, I'm willing to do the art and designs for a lot of these creatures.
Nice.
If there's anything that you get stuck on, I've got a mid-journey, so I can throw prompts into that. Just throwing that out there.
All right. So we've got the Mengasi or the Grav, designed by Chris. Who else has another species that kind of like thinking of right now that we want to throw in the mix? We got humans too, just for kind of the general fare, but
I gotta bring them up because they're in just about every spacefaring setting of like the two things that I like to combine into one that are usually combined into one, and those are the toughest nails, badass lizard race. Like, I know the elites aren't exactly lizards, but that's what I mean, like the elites or the Krogan, things of that nature. Because something that comes to mind when I was playing Mass Effect, some of the first times I ever saw a single Krogan amongst a group of anything was like, oh shit. Some kind of race that gives you that vibe of like, the moment you see that in a group you're going to fight, it's like, fuck me, man.
Here's something that made me think of, because one thing I like thinking about in sci-fi stuff is like what makes humans unique, because in real life humans are the only like sentient species we know anything about. So in a world with lots of sentient species, like something would cause humans to stand out probably. So what if humans are like one of, or maybe the only species with like soft flesh on the exterior? Because like these lizard people have scales. We just talked about the Grav being like a very tough exoskeleton. So like when most aliens meet a human for the first time, they're like, don't you just like bump into something and like bleed out and die? Like how can you even be a threat You're so soft and squishy.
I like that. One thing I would add with it too, like we're the softest, we're the squishiest. We can breed like rabbits. Like every other species has like a slower like reproduction rate and kind of how much they can replenish their population. We're the Zerg here. We're the ones that breed like ridiculous.
I love that. It's just like the other species. Like, yeah, we have a population just barely bustling onto 1 billion. We're on at the time of this, like we're on number 15.
Yeah. Like, you mean like one of our colonies?
That's it. We
Um,
have a continent with 1 billion people. We've got like
yeah, we got a continent. I mean, if you're really China and China, India, eesh, that's half. Ooh.
That also leads me to another thing I do want to bring up, because logically it would lead to this. I know I'm skipping a little bit, but habitable worlds. If our lanes are connected to places where the pavers have been attracted to, where the stars have already died, that's going to limit habitable worlds by a lot. So it kind of does also make sense why a lot of these other species, they're a bit slower going when it comes to population, versus us who are like, all right, we need another planet right now. How many do you have?
Yeah. I mean, I think it would make sense that they have like maybe longer natural lifespans, but war, famine, other extraneous circumstances maybe cuts that short. But like maybe with advances we can get to 100-ish, and that wherever that stuff is, and maybe even further, depending on where we want to put medical technology at. Versus them, they have some of them have been around for centuries, but there's a war. We just lost a few thousand, and that's like a shocking thing. Versus humanity is like, that's fine, we'll send there a few thousand.
That would also make a lot more sense. Why, like, there's a lot less of them. Why they're far more willing to work together in a lot of cases. Of like, if we lose, say, 100,000, that is a huge blow to the species and the population. Versus us, we just did have a 95% casualty rate that last engagement, but we took down a third of your number.
Yeah, right.
We're ready to do this again tomorrow. So I like that. One thing I'm kind of hearing with this too, and see if you guys agree. It sounds like on the galactic stage, kind of competition between factions, which we're going to define more of these factions as we go. Humanity's maybe one of the later comers.
I'm with that, 100%.
Yeah, but I would say humanity's probably because of the short lifespan and they're so fragile that they're also willing to take more risks and are kind of known as the explorers.
I like that.
I did have a faction I wanted to introduce, and it's because I like dwarfs. So I'm going to introduce the dwarf. But the dwarf is a derivative of the human, but they were put on a planet with very strong gravitational forces.
I knew that sentence was coming when you said dual. I'm like, yeah, my head was there too, man.
I love the idea of that.
Like
Swords.
Like 4.5 feet tall, but stocky. And
So we got humans, we got the Grav, we got this yet unnamed honorable big lizard race, and then we got the dwarves. The follow through kind of with what was said before, where humans are the ones that have the squishy skin. The dwarves just being a bit more hairier, to go off of the thing with beards and all that with popular media, of them having either short, tough fur or possibly like rock hard skin.
I like the harder skin, and mostly like if you had like a genealogy person look this through, it's just the compression of the gravity, like this constant like generation after generation evolving just to survive on that gravity. Their skin just naturally grew tougher to withstand it.
Do we want to call them dwarves?
I think we can keep colloquially the dwarf name. They may have like another name for themselves.
Yeah, but humans would call them dwarves. 100%. And that's the polite term. Yeah.
Yeah,
For-
I'm good if we wanted to change the terminology. It don't matter to me.
That works for me. I mean, we keep dwarves as
I mean,
well.
I think Tolkien will be relevant in a few centuries, probably. So I'm sure that'll still get thrown around.
Yeah.
All right. Uh, Burger, flesh out your lizard people.
Oh yes. So for the lizard race, it's like I want them to be bigger, bulkier, stronger. Like, not like an orc race, right?
You do
I'm
want
kind
orcs,
of
though.
thinking,
Let's be real. I know you, man.
I was kind of thinking for these kind of a more protective species, one that's overlooking the galaxy, perhaps. Warlike, somewhat, but since with the lower populations, and all that, they're the ones to try and like keep things civil a lot of the times. But if war does break out, they're the first ones people are going for troops, kind of deal. Like you see one of them on the battlefield, you go, shit.
Here's a because that idea of like kind of a reptilian like protecting made me think of like the idea of like dragons having a horde, but maybe these lizard people like see their companions as their like horde, and if you get like adopted by one, like it will do, it'll defend you with its life kind of thing, and so it'll like gather a group of people that it trusts and it will protect, and that's like a common thing for their culture maybe, is to like identify things that like to them like you are its like in its
Treasured
group.
resource.
Yeah. You're a resource to it, but that means it will care for you and protect you at its side.
I do kind of like this, like high sentimentality of that, but also you are a resource. One day I may need to spend you.
So they can like
Is it
trade people
more
or
animalistic, like the idea.
Go ahead.
Like an adopted tribe sort of thing.
So the question would be: is it more like animalistic, like imprinting, or would it be more, I would say, religious, like honor based?
I'd say the more is honor based. Like they've got their sentimentality. They like to have their creatures and like their creatures to be able to thrive and kind of like and honor them in return a little bit. They like to be respected within these communities that they're protecting.
Maybe it's sort of like again, you said they were like a religion honor thing on their end, but maybe it's a sort of like trying to learn from other beings, and in an effort like to through the knowledge of others we become stronger. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
There are two more things I'd like to introduce with this species. The first one is that they have the least populous but the longest life out of all the other species. And the second one is that they are the most competitive within their own species, individualistic, and separate. So seeing say a group of them in a squadron together, you're not gonna see that. But if you do, fuck.
I like them being so competitive. They had to spread the fuck out most of them. Like they were pretty much just like reducing their number down to nothing, and they're like, we'll find our own horde. But when they come together, it's like it's fierce.
They're bringing everything they got.
You want to make them like 12 feet tall?
I want these to be a possible playable race. 12 feet's kind of big.
Okay.
All right. What's well
It's
seasoned DMs? What would you like limit the size at for a playable character?
That's 9 feet maybe.
9 feet. Because I know you Burger mentioned that you wanted them to be like an oh shit moment when you see them.
Yeah.
And there's nothing like this lizardistic thing looking above the heads of everything else. And you could see it coming. Like, oh, they've got one of them.
And
Whatever.
actually, what we can even say with this too, just to even kind of keep both sides of the scale, any ones that be player ones will be young ones. These are ones that have not really lived in the galaxy too long, and these ones will be the ones about 9 feet. But if you can get a couple centuries under your belt, 12, 15 feet, like you can just get ridiculous. There's no upper limit, let's say.
I highly agree to that right there. The horror of being like, all right, let's assault this place. Godzilla.
Yeah. Gojira. Yeah. No,
So
that's
truly ancient beings, then, are they not just bigger, but are they vastly more powerful as they age?
We can even link them to the power as well when we define that out. One thing I want to add with them too, I want them to be the oldest species. They're the ones that they had their big war with whatever before their home planet was lost. They had their big war spread out amongst the stars. They were there pretty much before all the other spacefaring species figured their own shit out.
All right.
Could we say that species was genetically created by the engineers to be their bodyguard?
I
Or
like
by
that.
the agents?
Yeah.
Now, one last thing I will ask. In terms of like the lizard style going for like what these guys look like, are we saying dinosaurs? Or are we saying like regular reptiles nowadays? Because those can look pretty, I don't want to use the word derpy, but like they can look like intimidating, but sometimes just silly's the wrong word, just not quite as
Intimidating?
terrifying.
They're not as intimidating.
Not as intimidating.
Let's go with dinosaurs then. Let's give you some badass. I think the biggest question left in Burger, this is your species. What are they called?
That is another one, because we brought up like communication being different between other species. I do kind of want to keep that line up through like they have a name for themselves in like their own way they communicate, but for like verbal communication, they're called something different.
Oh, you broke up a little bit.
Oh shoot! So for their own way they communicate, they call themselves something that we can somewhat mimic with words, but most people call them another thing.
The hiss.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Maybe they hiss as a sign of affection for their group.
Oh, I love that.
Like I feel like like make it like a big part of their like communication. It's like it's the fucking freaking hiss over there. And I guess that colloquial again. I guess because we're looking at this from the human lens. So like, what would humans call them?
The hiss. But for the briefest, closest translation you can get out of them for like what they're actually called would probably be Durand.
What?
Durand.
Durand.
So for them, it's almost this deep, bassy growl that could shake even your insides, and that's the closest way we can get to pronouncing that.
I did have a follow-up question though for you, Burger.
Oh, what's that?
So we know they themselves are kind of in search of culture or understanding. Are they private? Do they share with others this? And on the flip side, what do other races think of them other than just as fierce warriors?
For both of those, I think there's a good answer for it. Of like, they have their own tight-knit communities, their own hordes of sentient and non-sentient creatures and resources. I imagine with their competitiveness, they'll keep to themselves what they gather, but if you get into their group, they're going to share that with you. And for what else they're looked at for the galaxy, I imagine they're looked to almost as like leaders. Like these are the ones that have lived the longest. They are most protective, occasionally affectionate. These can like people look to them not just as fierce warriors, but at times like beacons of either wisdom, honor, just as leaders as a whole.
Nice. All right.
Since I imagine it would be hard to get one of them to like bend the knee for someone else. Unless you have something really good to offer.
All right. So we've got the Durand or the Hiss. Keith, we're going to bounce back to you. So we got the dwarves. They've got that strong gravitic forces that shrunk them down, tough skin. Tell us something else about them.
To expand on the dwarves?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think it's nothing like they were literally humans that just grew up on these dense planets. And so They're short, they're stocky, they've got the tough exterior skin, but also the bone density to just withstand the forces. Their bones are just extremely dense, and their muscle mass is extremely. So on their planet, they can jump a normal height. On a normal planet, they would be considered, extremely strong or athletic.
I like that. How does the galaxy view them?
I think that they're probably
They look down on him.
I mean,
That was bad. Thank you guys for laughing.
yeah.
I feel like if I can throw my thing in there, they sound like the perfect kind of like manual workers compared to a lot of the other species we've come up thus far.
Like if you need a project done quickly and it's heavy materials and you don't want to use robots, I guess maybe they see them as manual labor. I guess they would have similar lifespans to humans. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Maybe like, a little bit longer, a little bit shorter, but they also reproduce in the same way. So, they're the Zerg 2.0, I guess, when it comes to strength and all that.
I kind of like it better if, like, for the rest of the galaxy, before humans were found, they were like the shortest lived ones. Only like 2 or 3 centuries. Damn. And then the humans popped up like, how long?
Yeah, right. You get what, less than a century normally?
So what you're saying is, to the rest of the galaxy, humans are just tall dwarves.
Yeah, I like that. So dwarves discovered earlier, they've got a little bit longer lifespan. We'll say like twice as long, or like 1.5 times as long as a human, but kind of that shorter, stronger. And then people consider humans tall, weak dwarfs because it's not as strong. They're not as athletic.
More
Especially
willing to die and explore and go into the danger.
I'll add that I think that they probably view themselves as superior to humans, and so that they're very cliquey. Like they'll go and they'll do some manual labor, but you'll always see dwarfs around other dwarfs.
Hey, can I sit at your table? Piss off.
I like that. All right, so we've got 4 species. I'm going to add one in. This is a species. This is like a high species that tries to portray themselves as better than the rest. They're probably the richest of the species. One of the ones that's able to collect Zero. The first one to learn how to collect Zero. They call themselves the Arquin. They like to meet new species, but rather than like the Megasi who likes to meet new species just to learn from them, they're trying to see what they can take from them. These are the species that are like their whole government is pretty much a corporation. They are looking to see how much they can expand growth, new planets, zero, and how much they can expand themselves across the galaxy. And probably not too big of a fan with humans, with how fast humans can explore and expand themselves across the galaxy.
Nice.
I have an idea that could be fun with that. So the reason they're trying to explore and expand and get so much, wealth and ability to like take care of themselves is because even though they're as long-lived as a lot of the other species relative to humans, they have some like secret weakness that most like the other species don't know about. But like, and maybe we won't even define what it is now, but it's like they're like kind of insecure about that in a way where like they need to feel like they need to do all these things to protect themselves. And because if other species find out about their weakness, they'll just be like wiped out in an instant. Or that's their fear. Whether or not it actually happens is another thing. But like, and it could be some kind of like biological thing where like certain chemicals will like cause a massive problem in them or something, but it's a very like closely guarded thing that every member of their species knows. But like if one of them shares that secret with someone else, it's like immediate execution. And they will like hunt down people who they think might know the secret or something like that.
I'll say for them, they don't have access to whatever the power is. So this mystical power, they they try to use technology to mimic it, and it's a closely guarded secret. And anytime you meet an individual one of them, they just say they're not blessed with it, but the species as a whole cannot tap into it, which is why they're trying to expand, make themselves too big to fall.
With the description I've been given, it kind of reminded me of vampires a little bit, of like a weakness, but these guys see themselves as superior, what they can take. We already described the longer lived. So if there's anything that could be taken from that, go ahead. If not, still okay.
What
I think that
this
works. It's
species-
kind of like the physical description. I was almost thinking almost like an insectoid type race that is just driven as a collective to grow. But it's one of those ones that, on the whole, they have a much shorter or lower reproductive rate than humans, but they still value their individual members far less than humans. It's all for whatever this group is called, the Arquin.
And so I have an idea, and feel free to veto this one because it might take us down a bad road here. But what if this race is probably what we would refer to as a descendant, or at least the closest we have to a descendant of the ancient race?
I like that.
Oh, that could lead to a lot of things of how we define the ancient race, since the Arquin can't use the power.
It could even be with the ancient race. The ancient race could use the power. And the Arquin kind of look like some of the depictions of that ancient race. They play upon it. Oh yeah, we can use this. We're their descendants.
I kind of like if they're giant cockroach people, because cockroaches are almost perfectly adapted for, say, Earth, and that being one of the life-seeded races that's been sprinkled all around.
You say perfect, but I got boots that say otherwise.
So we got the Arquin. They are kind of descended from the ancient species, insectoid collective that's all about growing, trying to hide their weakness because they can't tap into the power. And they use kind of the tech. And let's say with this one too, since they're the descendants, they may kind of have a little bit of a leg up on whatever the ancient gardener and harvester tech is that they've tried to use to cover up for their failings.
So very far more technologically based and with a bit more there, but the power not so much.
And let's add to that too. They avoid the hell out of the Durand, the Hiss. They don't like them in their societies. They don't like to deal with them because I think we said the Durand have the power, so they just keep away from them.
Makes sense.
I've got a species in mind.
Go for it.
Which I'm guessing is probably going to be one of the ones that they don't like either.
Okay.
I don't want to. I mean, if you got more to add, please feel free.
Oh, I'm good. Unless somebody else has anything to add for the Arquin. Perfect. Go.
Okay. So, hope none of you are arachnophobic. Okay. So, I'm thinking of a sort of like an insect-like species, but that they walk around on four legs and have four like usable appendages, so to speak. But it's not like spiders where it's just like a flat tip. It's their four limbs up top have 8 digits. So it's 8, and like again, I want to like imagine these as like very technologically advanced in the sense that they're very good at like engineering, taking small things apart, putting them back together. Like, you know, they can understand how a device works just by taking something apart really quickly in front of you and putting it back together. Like stupid high reaction speeds. And like one of the species that began spacefaring in their own solar system very early on, just because they're intelligent. And as for their lifespans, I was thinking indefinite.
Okay.
As long as they don't receive any sort of thing, they're just kind of like lobsters, but they don't get bigger. It's just like reimagining themselves, but like that whole part of their thing is is a very dangerous process because they're essentially in a coma for a period of time. Does that make sense? Kind of like
I have a counter to that.
Yeah.
Rather than like lobsters, how about like jellyfish and sea anemone, where their continuation is indefinite, but they go into that coma and they're basically producing a biological clone with all the memories and everything that was before that gets to continue on, while the original body or husk or shell that they leave behind was the
Yeah.
creature.
No, I love that. That works because I was trying to think of a way to make them like old, and that's how a lot of the society, like the information their society carries over. Like they don't have too much in the way of like learning because their entire species is like they all know about like they all know. If that makes like kind of they each teach each other what it is,
Yeah.
and they have like low population numbers. So when one of them dies, it is a supreme tragedy. It is like, Library of Alexandria times 20.
What comes to mind is like mental powers or telepathy, and maybe they even have the ability to transfer memories and images.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Like
And
that.
that's their like main form of communication.
Yeah.
So we were thinking, you said like very like spidery with the 4 walking limbs, 4 actual limbs.
Mm-hmm.
What were you thinking kind of like for their face / their armament, skin, hair, whatever that would be?
All right. Well, I was feeding some stuff back and forth into like AI. And I'll put it in the Discord general chat. So yeah, this is kind of what I have in mind. Like I wanted like insect like eye, but like imagine more like a fly where it has like a lot more I'm not sure how you would describe
Lenses.
that. Yes.
Lenses.
Yeah, so they can observe something like in a very different way.
So I have 2 thoughts on that because that's really cool. One, I like the idea that like both the Arquin and these guys are into technology, but for Arquin, they're very focused on Zro technology, and like knowing what the ancients know, figuring out the ancient technology. Whereas these guys are more with traditional like technology that like we're familiar with, like they're like electronics, computers, like they're very good with all that. They don't really mess with Zro very much, which means that they would be good to be the ones that like have settlements in the pavers, because you can't really use Zro in the pavers or else the paver will just go after it. So maybe they hang out there a lot. And the other thought I had is it'd be cool if there's one of these guys that's like the oldest in the whole species, and he's so old that he still has memories from the previous like versions of themselves that remembers being transplanted from one planet to another by gardeners. And he's like the only one who has any memory of what that was actually like.
I like that.
What I am hearing from this is how could this be a playable race then?
This may not be a playable one.
Oh, all right then.
Yeah, it might be a little hard to translate into like a character sheet. I didn't give that much thought. I'm like, oh, that's a cool idea.
No, it's still really cool though.
Yeah, it works really well, and I like too because I was thinking the same lines too with kind of the difference between the Arquin and this race. Like this race is innovative; they can create their own tech. Where the Arquin are more adaptive. They kind of figure out how to tweak the ancient civilization's tech and try to use it versus kind of come up with their own ideas. Both kind of smart, but like one kind of coming up with new ideas, and the other one kind of rediscovering old ideas.
Yeah, and I want to think that like not that they like outright don't like dislike the ancient Zero using technology, but that they think they can do better given enough time.
Okay, I like that.
Certain level of like superiority of we can do better.
Yeah, like yeah, they recognize that where it's at now, but it's like maybe even like they refuse to handle Zero technology because they don't want that. They don't want to taint themselves with the same line of thinking that got those races destroyed.
Yeah, they've got memory, or the oldest one has memories from before that civilization fell. Why follow their path?
Exactly. It's almost like a taboo.
Yeah.
Or, maybe there might be some outliers that disagree, but in all, it's more of a, oh, Zero, I don't even want to see that. Get that away from me. It's disgusting.
I
Is that-
have I have another species I want to bring up here, and this one is taking a little bit of inspiration from Starfinder 2e, but that's only in like its
Before we
appearance.
dive into that one, Burger, Alex, or even if you unless you have one right away,
Hmm.
what's the name of the species?
So, I imagine translated to English would be something along the lines of the creators.
Yeah.
Or the builders or something like that. Something to do with construction.
Assemblers? Although that feels less innovative.
No. Maybe the assembly.
Assembly, all right.
Ooh.
That's cool because it's like both technology, but also like maybe that's what their governing body. It kind of like it's
Yeah.
it goes a lot of different ways. I like it.
I like that. Thanks for the suggestion. I piggybacked. See, I told you guys, I'm good at building on.
All right.
And
Had an
Burger,
idea.
go ahead, Keith.
This is another one. Feel free to veto it because it might take your race a different direction. But what if this was the only race that wasn't seeded by the ancients, but instead this was the race that defeated the ancients or caused the ancients' downfall?
That is a interesting proposition. Maybe they were just around, and
I
they
was thinking that
saw
they
their
observed the downfall. Yeah.
and they watched
Observed
their rise and fall.
They were still seeded by them. That's what we've one of the things we've brought up. So, yeah, having seen the fall, at least.
Okay.
I'm not too sure about being the ones who caused it.
Yeah, because they don't strike again, and by all means, this can shape and like shift or whatever, but they don't strike me as being an aggressive race. They strike me as being focused on innovation and growth.
And so
what if for this race, rather than being like seated like the other ones technically were, they kind of found a way to hitch a ride. They observed the downfall of this other civilization. Maybe the harvesters collapsed their sun, but they were able to catch a ride. I think we said they wanted them to be on the pavers. So they caught a ride on one of the pavers, kept themselves alive, and were able to kind of survive between the two ages.
They're like whale lice. And to briefly describe what those are, they're like these little ticks, lice that get stuck on whales. And they're so cool in the fact that like you can track which whales interacted with which because they go through so many generations that they become a little bit more unique to the whale. But as different whales introduce each other, and it's the only way for these to like get on a whale, they'll jump off of one whale and onto another, get stuck on, and I like whale lice a lot.
Taking that back a bit, what if they don't necessarily have a home world anymore?
I was thinking that.
Yeah, and they live exclusively on these whales. Maybe they have a few colonies set up and like stuff like that, but they're like those whales are essentially they've made their cities on these things.
I like that. And one thing we got to play in with like the downfall of the ancient civilization. Well, the assembly didn't cause a downfall. They feel like their dependency on Zero and this use of their technology caused their downfall, and they feel like since they observed it and didn't interfere. They feel somewhat responsible for not convincing this ancient civilization to abandon Zero because they just watched it go down.
Yeah, and I'm gonna throw one more thing out there. Their end goal is to travel to a different galaxy.
I like that.
I don't want to live in this galaxy anymore.
Yeah, essentially.
Perfect. So I think we should move on from the assembly. Burger, I know you have another species. Can we get to that a little bit later? Because I realize we're almost we're an hour and a half in. We still have a shitload of questions.
Now we got actually time.
What I'd like to do is do a couple more questions, do a quick break, and then we'll get into the others. I think we should be able to wrap up the first category in a few seconds. Actually, we've already figured out what the galaxy is competing over, so that's easy. Everybody, what's a wonder of the galaxy? What's something, and wonder, like it could be some like natural phenomena, even created by one of the ancient civilizations, the gardeners and the harvesters. Just something that's amazing, that's not completely understood, but that kind of creates awe. And kind of go crazy with it. I've got one, and this is just something I like to add for some of my worlds, but it's something I think will fit the galaxy pretty well. What scientists can determine is nearest to the center of the galaxy, there is this, what is colloquially known as the scar, but this rift in space that just pours out energy. It is one of those ones that has been hard to study. Even kind of the more advanced civilization, the Assembly, the Arquin, have not been able to profile exactly what it is. But those who are sensitive to the power sometimes feel that they've heard kind of voices, or at least heard the presence of others from the other side of the scar. And it kind of like each civilization has its own name for it, but colloquially along the space lanes, it's known as the astral scar.
How are we supposed to follow that up? That's badass.
Yeah, I dig it. Oh.
I like the idea. Amongst the nebulae of the galaxy where stars will soon be born, there is a actual like quote unquote race, not sentient by any means, but a thing that occurs there that can just blip there. Of what can be, I'll call for now, space moths, of these things that are made out of this powder, possibly the powder of Zro, that just consume these nebulae, not wholly, not fully, but stick there for as long as they need. As the sun begins to form, that's when they blip out into another space. They are pretty harmless unless you hit your ship with them. In that case, it bores a hole through the ship. The moths is fine. The ship's not. But they're an interesting phenomenon and species that's yet to be explained, but is assumed connected, or possibly theorized to be connected with the ancients.
And I feel like they're in, definitely correct me if this doesn't fit the vision. I feel like they're pretty beautiful. Like, they're probably one of those things that's like spacers talk about it all the time. No many don't get to see it, but when you do, it's like one of those almost artistic type sites.
Absolutely. One thing I do want to say, I imagine the space moths are not that big, not the size of an actual moth, but only like this. Each one is only the size of a fist.
Okay.
So just a wave of this like beauty. It's almost like watching a school of like krill or shrimp move, but with all of the colors of the cosmos already inside a nebula.
Nice. Who wants to go next? And while everybody's thinking of one thing I wanted to like pose to the group, with kind of between the gardeners and the harvesters and the pavers. What if the pavers can like reignite stars? Like they eat the Zero, but find a way, because like the gardeners wanted to reseed the galaxy after like the destruction. It's a slow process, but after they eat the Zero, what if like the pavers can find a way to kind of birth or give the beginnings of a new star?
That they breathe out a nebula.
Perfect.
I like that idea, and I want to add to it. What if that's something that like they've only started doing very recently? Like they need to consume a lot of Zero to get that process started, and like the first time that happened was like say 1,000 years ago, because they've been going around for these however long since the ancients were around, and now they're starting to reseed the galaxy finally because like almost all of them have started to collect enough, and now they're like leaving new stars around, and like this is like upsetting the galactic economy, and all the factions are like trying to figure out how to deal with suddenly planets that are pretty soon probably going to be habitable that weren't before, or stuff like that.
That actually kind of, because one of the next questions are, what are explorers gravitating to in the galaxy? They've always been gravitating towards Zero. but there's new colonies afoot. Like the last 1,000 years, some of these stars are starting to finally come into being. There's new places to settle down, and have a little bit of a space race to claim the best.
I kind of imagine this as like no one knows why, no one knows when, no one knows how this started happening or why it happens, but every once in a while, just these pavers just all show up in the same spot, and they start doing this almost like dance or orchestration, where they start creating this nebula of gas, and then when it's there, then they just leave, and that nebula of gas will then form over time into a new star.
I like that.
This also brings up the fact we said earlier. Some people may hunt the pavers, but this is still a species that can like reproduce and like create new ones. Imagine the horror of like looking at these things that are basically breathing new life in the galaxy, taking them back in, killing them for profit. That a lot of people, depending on your way of belief, will look at that and be like, what did you do? Versus others like, this is what we need for progress. These have exactly what we're looking for.
Yeah, that can be a big source of conflict.
Oh, I have a terrible idea. You know how like whales, like they have to like go to certain spots in the world to have babies, right? What if this is the only time that they can breed?
Oh, is when they come to the configuration.
They come together and create this nebula, and that's when they breed.
It's like a side effect of their breeding. Like
yeah.
I like that.
Oh man, just stubbed my toe really bad. Did we? I'm sorry, I had to step away for a moment. Did we go over how the power?
Oh no! So I sidetracked us from the wonders of the galaxy to talk about the paver piece. So Berger got his one with the Zromoths, these beautiful wave of beautiful creatures that kind of feed upon the nebulae. So probably you see a lot of them around those paver breeding star creations, but they can be kind of seen in other areas too. Everybody, you get to create one astral piece. And then what we'll do is after we do the, or not astral piece, one wonder of the galaxy, after we do that, we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll go into the power and tech.
I just can imagine how beautiful it must be to see them try and reignite a new star with all of those, this row moss coming in and new one begin to form within that, like, nebulae. That must be, like, those people living on the pavers, no wonder they see them in such high regards after seeing something like that.
So I have an idea for a wonder that's a little bit more artificial in nature. So let's say that there's two star systems that are connected by one of like the wormholes created by pavers. And maybe this can be like the homeworld sort of for like the Arkin, because it's in these two star systems, there's two planets, like one in each system. But you know, all the ancients did all sorts of weird technology stuff to where those planets are kind of locked in place relative to the wormhole. And there's a space elevator going from one planet to the other through the wormhole, to where you can just like hop on this elevator, and you know, it takes a little while because it's a far distance, but it's like, and so these are like the most colonized planets. Like you can find every species there. There's lots of Arkin there because they're, you know, this was built by the ancients and they want that connection. But it's sort of this like double star system connection that's like the hub of civilization in the galaxy, and there's like nothing else like it.
I like that. So it's not the Arkin homeworld, but it's like one of their first colonies they discovered. They've claimed it and they've made it like the center of like trade, commerce. What's like the planet called? And like, is there a name for that lift?
Let's see. Oh, I'm trying to think. What's it called?
Oh, go ahead.
What's it called when you have like two stars rotating each other? I'm trying to think of like something based off of that name.
Binary system.
Yeah, so like the binary juncture or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's sort of it's like a lift connecting the two planets, but it's the thing where there's like still like buildings and structures on the whole lift. So it's essentially 2 whole planets connected with this machinery that's all one giant city planet type thing. Or like double planet city. It's just called the binary juncture.
Nice.
Nice.
All right. Who's next for their Wonder of the Galaxy?
I'll go here, and so this one is going to be not tech based at all, and so it's either going to be the garden or paradise, but it's almost like it just shows up when people are in need, and it's not even like a planet. It's not like a space station. No one knows how it exists in space, but it exists in space, and it's just a green space with whoever you are and what you're used to. It's survivable for you, and you stay there for a short period of time, and then it just disappears and it leaves.
Perfect. What's it called?
And we'll go with paradise.
Paradise. All right.
So just occasionally, someone when at the death's door, paradise arrives and they survive.
Yeah, and so it would be extremely rare to even know someone who's ever glimpsed it.
I'd imagine most people wouldn't even believe it.
Exactly. Most people probably think it's just a fairy tale or folklore.
I like this. So it kind of comes in extreme need, rescues these people from whatever situation they were in, and like have like this bliss for a certain time, and then like they're kind of like, are they like? Does it put them back where they were, or does it kind of like transport them someplace different after it's done?
It's a good question. And so I would assume it would exist in a way that, like if you were on a ship, you could land your ship there.
Okay.
But then when you get back on your ship, it just is gone.
Nice. All right.
There's one that also came to my mind I want to briefly bring up. I know I made one already, but just in case anyone wants to yoink this one because it's not too thought out. But for the pavers and the harvesters, for those two, like space fauna, just one part of a galaxy that's just, if you look at it through various like technological ways, it's just a graveyard of them. A bunch of them that's just dead. Too many what could be considered a treasure trove, but you can't get to it. The moment no one who's gone in has ever come back out. People who've watched them go in just watch them sizzle. People have tried and tried and tried and tried with various different methods, but the graveyard.
Yeah, I'm okay with. I mean, that's a good one. I got one though, but I like that one.
But
All
yeah,
right.
We'll
Okay.
throw that one in too. But Alex, what are you thinking?
All right. So what if the wormholes didn't always work as intended? Add a bit of risk to spaceflight. And maybe it's some sort of observable change in the way that the wormhole presents itself to the galaxy. But maybe they have like a I don't know, what kind of a look are you guys thinking? Like some sort of like a ring, or like where space looks differently or whatever?
That's kind of what I was thinking. Kind of like this almost bluish distortion. That's like almost like elliptical in shape. Yeah.
Okay. I was thinking if it's going to be blue, then maybe depending on the color of the outer ring, it's the sort of thing that there's no rhyme or reason to it, but sometimes they just don't go where they normally go. And the only reason that they know that it's not that they don't go where they normally go is that their intended destination doesn't see them, but there's no way of knowing where they went. Some people have thrown out different stories of making it through, and Some of them were descriptions of hell. Others were don't remember anything. So, yeah, I'm totally stealing from like the chaos in Warhammer a little bit there.
War.
Yes, exactly.
I did
Like
have it raises a question though, so now I'm curious what the group thinks. How do you communicate throughout the galaxy? Specifically, do you communicate through a wormhole, or is there other communications? Because you said they go in, but they don't know they come out.
I immediately say that I don't think it should be through the wormholes. I say it's either specifically through the ancient technology only or the power. Those are the only two ways. Otherwise, it's too slow.
And I'd add to that, I would say that ships can't communicate. Even if they have the ancient technology on the ship to try to be able to communicate through the wormholes, going through them, you're pretty much cut off from the galaxy until you make your way back out.
And as for where they actually take you, I will leave that up to whoever runs it.
Yeah.
If it happens. But again, conflicting reports of what actually happens. Some people might just be making up stories to gain the galactic equivalent of cash. And I can just imagine like the sort of subculture of like very like superstitious spacefaring species, like adding trinkets and performing rituals to protect against that sort of thing.
I like that. It's one of those things like, however frequent we want to be, 8 out of 10 times, 9 out of 10 times, you're fine. You just go through, get to the wormhole. As long as your ship's well made, you'll make it through.
Mm-hmm.
But that 10th time, you just disappear and there's no trace of you.
Yeah, and again, people like the more skeptical factions might discredit it to poor ship making, or maybe they just ran off with the cargo, or fill in the blank of plausible explanations. But every now and again, that blue turns to violet.
I like that. Perfect. Well, we got through Galactic Facts. We've made some other stuff as we went to. Let's take a quick break. Let's come back 9:10. Get a minute to go grab a new drink, whatever you need to, and we'll come back and dive into some of the other pieces and just making our galaxy.
I've been loving this.
Yeah, same.
Welcome back, everyone, to the session -1, as we're calling it, as we create the galaxy. Before we dive back in, I talked to the crew about this, but just so the viewers know as well, the galaxy will eventually be our Tuesday campaign after the conclusion, or Tuesday setting, we should say, since this will be a bunch of mini campaigns after the conclusion of occupation. So keep it out. We'll probably do a couple one-shots between here and there, but it should probably be around November-ish that we'll be able to kind of get this started in earnest as we get a chance to come up with what our first campaign will be. So stay tuned for that. And then just a little bit of a refresher for the players on that too, because each time we dive into whatever our campaign's going to be, we will have a session 0 for it, where there'll be additional chances to kind of come out and flesh out the galaxy, to kind of make it jive with whatever system that we're working with, or add anything else we'll need for that premise or system. So more chances to come, with the galaxy only being in a hard state during a campaign, and then kind of reopened again for creation at the end of that campaign with the new session 0. But with that, we've gotten a lot of cool stuff in, but the next big thing that we're going to get to is the power. This is a sci fantasy system. It has to have some mystical, metaphysical type, not force. Keep trying to find words to avoid force, but something that can kind of exist beyond the realm of what's quantifiable. And Chris, you got that one with your dice roll. There's 2 questions on this side. The opening one is, what is the mystical, otherworldly power that exists in the galaxy? And what's the power's origin, or does it have an origin? So your choice on that one, we'll kind of riff off where you go.
Yeah, so the kind of idea that's been thrown around in my head in this session so far is actually I like the name, like it goes by different names in different manifestations, but typically people call it multi-kinesis because it's strange powers that always or it's like one person on their own never can do anything with this, but once you like link up with other people in a certain way, and that doesn't necessarily mean like you're with them right there in the moment, but like it involves multiple minds working in concert in certain ways to strange and unique powers. And so and maybe it's like most it's very rare because people can only like link up with certain other people somewhere in the galaxy. So most people go their whole lives without ever even meeting anyone that they can like link up with that in that way. But like once you've linked up with somebody, both of you like get access to these powers, and the stronger your connection or the stronger your connection with other people, the more powerful it becomes, I guess. But it's just like an emphasis on the idea of like minds connecting in a metaphysical way, that each individual mind couldn't accomplish any of this on its own. And so, and also like the idea that like the more minds that are involved and like linked up, it gets like exponentially more powerful. But again, it's so rare that it's like having more than one person linked together or something like that is not something feasible. So I don't know, do y'all think that'll work, or is that like too much of a restriction or to play it out? But
I feel like that would make PCs hard.
So I was thinking about that.
Yeah.
That's the one thing. I mean, that's good. I like the sound of it. Like that sounds cool. If it was like more of a, not necessarily like a crunchy system. Like depending on what we're doing. Does that make sense?
No, and I kind of think a quick way we could riff with that, like kind of like purest expression of this power is kind of those direct links of mind with kind of finding that one that can kind of open your mind to its truest possibilities. But maybe the galaxy's found a way that's not quite as like this. With that, you could like maybe move moons, do crazy feats. But for more mundane pieces, there's a way to unlock it. Just on like the most, like the old, you can only use 10% of your brain type thing. You can only use 10% of what this power is. Like it's a way that's kind of makes it more open to the masses, but it's not the truest expression of this.
I have two things to add on to that of how it could be done by the masses there. And that is perhaps rather than like finding that one you're truly attuned to, certain factions have like groups of these who use the power where you can kind of connect to there. It's not the greatest, but you still have that like link that you're part of that organization and that's where you derive your power from as one possibility. Or the other, we've already locked in that there are actual powers out there, not the power, but powers. Could also be that could be where you connect to. It could be strong, could be not. All depends on how we define both the power and those powers.
I have an idea on this. So there's actually it's sort of a real study. There's a study that showed they shot tiny particles, and if people watched it, that the particles would hit, and if people didn't watch it, the particles wouldn't hit. And it's like a real thing. And so the idea is that if you believe something into existence, it comes into existence. And so could this metaphysical like be literally, if you believe in it enough, it will happen. And if you have multiple people who are now mentally in sync, I don't know how that would work. Now you can actually do crazy things because the universe will bend itself to that willpower. Individually, you can do that, but as a group, you could do it even more. And to piggyback off that, you could have literally, well, powers. I can throw a fireball because I believe I can throw a fireball because someone invented it.
I like it.
Yeah, like in terms
I
of,
do want to bring up. Go ahead.
in terms of like PCs making it work, is like one idea maybe is that like it's more about like awakening your mind by linking with someone that you, like you said, can like attune to. But once your mind is awoken, you don't necessarily need to be with that person for something. So like if there's a PC with these powers in a story, the person that they attuned with or whatever could be on some other planet, some far away, not involved in the story at all. It's just part of their backstory that they met this person and they had that connection, and both of them awoke in their minds because of that connection. And then they went off and did their own thing. And then maybe there's things where it's like it's more, like I said, it's like more powerful if people get together, or more powerful if people are, like focusing those beliefs into the same thing, like you were saying. But it's just like, I guess more to like the origin is by attuning properly to someone with like the same mind wavelength, I guess.
Maybe like the origin of it, like that's like you said, the origin, like the first people to truly awaken the power outside of like this ancient race, kind of like dedicated themselves and kind of got on the same wavelength, kind of like brought their minds together in such a way they were able to like kind of shape reality, and then kind of they started to spread like this message, and kind of more people started to do it and kind of connecting with those people, and almost like an infection type, right? Like they kept kind of going and spreading throughout the galaxy, showing more and more people this way to kind of bend its reality.
But how common is this?
I don't know about you, but I actually don't want to go the Star Wars route of like this is a super rare thing. I don't want to go where it's like everyone has it either, but more so like it's a possibility. Some people are far more attuned to it than others. It's like a talent. You can go for it if you want, but it's a lot of effort, a lot of work, and it requires a connection like that. When, say, for some races, technology. That's just better.
Well, I had an idea bouncing around, and again, feel free to discard it. What if it had to do with the wormholes? Maybe before you travel it, you live your whole life, but then you go on a journey through it to go wherever you want to go, and during that journey, something wakes up in you.
Maybe the specific trigger is like, maybe like, because I like the idea of infection that Tegan mentioned. So maybe if you travel through the wormhole with somebody else who has a power, then you gain it as well.
Maybe
what if
it's
like
not
even like known exactly? Like some people think it's like connecting your mind to some other. Some think it's traveling through the wormhole with people with powers. Some think it's like an expression of their gods. Like it's all like what everybody has like their own tale for how you get it, but it's just rapidly spread. With some being able to manifest it through great effort, and others just not being deaf to it.
And I can just imagine the belief system springing up around this, and the entire the devotion behind like reaching the certain age or like level of understanding, and then going on this journey, going on your I can't think of the right name for it. You're going on this journey and it's random. Doesn't matter how hard you prayed, it doesn't matter what you did or didn't, and like just, oh, you weren't worthy, you didn't try hard enough. I don't know, that's just thoughts bouncing around. By all means, feel free to take from that if you want, but it's your baby. You got the role. So
one thing I was thinking of kind of along with that too, because it sounds like, at least to me, it sounds like something somewhat new from the way we've described it so far. What if, because we said about 1,000 years ago, the pavers started to make new suns? What if this showed up around the same time?
That would work perfectly I think that works perfect.
And the fact that it's not entirely understood.
Mm-hmm.
And I can just imagine like militaries like trying to research on how to trigger it, because who doesn't want troops that can throw a fireball or move things with their minds?
So if we try to connect the idea that there are people in the galaxy that you can connect with, and now that the wormholes are here, those people are theoretically close. If you were to consider the wormhole empty space. So now, what if everybody has the ability to unlock to some extent? Because everybody's part of a group that has this ability to connect, but most of them have never actually connected. And so you might have some tiny residual effect of that power, but if you've actually connected with those people, or maybe been in a wormhole at the same time with as those people, maybe you've never met them, then that's how it unlocks. And the people that are truly powerful are the ones that have come together in close proximity and truly melded those minds.
So I like that bit with kind of the ones kind of truly powerful, kind of the ones that like melded the minds, kind of merged almost their thought patterns and strengths. At least, and I kind of put this up to the group too. I like for like those the powerful ones. They've done that. They've unlocked their minds. They've gone through this whole process. For like almost the everyday ones, it's a crapshoot. Like some went through the warm throws, some meditated, some prayed, as Alex said. Some just came up lucky. And like everybody, especially like the Arquin, have studied the shit out of it because they hasn't unlocked any of their own species, and they're like furious over it. But other species, just like humans, let's say humans, it's plentiful. Humans.
I mean, you roll the dice that many times.
Yeah.
These monkey rats, God, everywhere.
These squishy skin newcomers.
Yeah. They show up and they can move worlds.
Yeah,
because like
are humans the ones that typically have this problem?
That would make a lot of sense because they're the most populous and have.
I would say like if you like on average, humans are the most. I think to bring another point, the Duran, they all have it, but there's so few of them. They're so rare to see that humans just outweigh them with just sheer numbers of who has it from their species.
Now here's I don't know if we're running with this, but how rare is interspecies connections?
One thing I kind of thought of that I didn't quite bring up earlier, but maybe it's only interspecies connections. But that might contradict some of the other things we've already established.
I prefer for it to be only interspecies. Personally,
yeah, that would probably be too much of a restriction.
I feel like that would be something that's seen as like a rarity.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe like or maybe it can be a start of an interesting plot hook.
hey, we haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
So it's possible, but not likely. Is that kind of
so one thing we brought up earlier was how to do like interstellar communication. So like one thought I had along these lines is like it's through people connected by this power in some kind of ways how that communication happens. So they'll have like basically like radio operators who are just people that have connected in this way and now are stationed on different planets, and now like they send messages through those two people, and that's how like everyday communication is or something like that. And maybe that's like a very specialized job, and that's that direct constant telepathy is not something that like every PC would have access to, but that's the way that like the galaxy manages communication when they need to do that.
I like that for like factions that because there's like two major methods of communication, like kind of utilizing this collective power and sending their thoughts through, and then like utilizing the ancient technology from like the gardeners and the harvesters for those who aren't able to, with both kind of closely guarding the communications, trying to keep their own lines secure.
so?
I do want to bring this up. I do want to bring this up because I'm also stealing from stories of this one, also with Zro. But the idea that Zro, as powerful as it is and dangerous as it is, can be used to enhance these powers.
Oh yeah.
That if it's processed enough to such a dose, you can take it like a drug.
I like it almost being like in forgive my use of this one, almost like the dark side a little bit. It's gonna like burn the fuck out of your body. It's gonna not corrupt you, like soul wise, but corrupt your body. It's one of those things that reduces your lifespan by like a third. But you can do some ridiculous feats with it.
Hop on Zro and then get on a dialysis machine right after, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
I actually like the idea of playing with that physical corruption thing of like, what if it causes like growths on you, like darker spikes just to turn the edge up a little bit on there, but like literally physically corrupts you, not just through dark veins or anything like that. Like a common corruption that'll happen to any species, no matter what. Like it starts to grow crystals on you or something, or you start to petrify, something of that nature.
So if someone does it, you know.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
You'd be like, oh no, don't mess with that dude.
Yeah, that guy's a Zro addict.
No, just imagine coming into a room and all you see are statues with crystal growths on them, and it's just some guy's collection of people who's failed him that he's made overdose on Zro.
That's quite intense. I imagine that it might affect different species in different ways.
Oh yeah.
Like, I'm just, again, for humans, I'm thinking, I don't know. I had something and it just flitted away, but some sort of, I know, like maybe like a growth or maybe like a hardening of the skin. Or something along those lines. And we can think of different things for different species. But I do like the idea of using Zro as like a boost. But once you do it, you're tainted.
Oh yeah. I like that. So let me summarize a little bit of what we've done so far for the power. I think because we went back and forth on a few things, so call me out if I missed something that we agreed upon. Metakinesis, right, Chris?
Multi-kinesis.
Multi-kinesis. Is like kind of one of the names for it within the galaxy. Like how it's activated, a little bit of a mystery to everyone. Some people think it's going through the warp hole. Some think it's going through the warp hole with somebody already activated. Some think some of these ancient beings or somebody a while back synced on the same mental wavelength and then spread it throughout the galaxy as they traveled and interacted with others. Others still even think it's the pavers and their creations starting to bring it into being. But either way, it's been active for about 1,000 years. It's strengthened by those kind of acting in concert with other minds who have been awakened to be able to do great feats, kind of utilizing your inner mind strength melded with the group's collective will. Or it can also be strengthened if you want to take the quick path by doing a hit of Zro, even though it's going to morph, kind of change yourself, corrupt you a little bit, shorten your lifespan, but you can do great and terrible deeds with it.
I'm thinking of shorthand, calling them MKs.
MKs, all right.
Yeah.
I like that.
And maybe with the corrupted ones. Again, I'm thinking, how would Earth do this? How would Super Earth do this?
Basically, since we already know we have the most numbers, it's like, okay, so each life has now become a little less for us. Just coke out our own soldiers for a little bit, send them in, and wipe it clean.
Yeah. And I'm thinking like I can see some spec ops groups intentionally dosing their soldiers.
Oh yeah.
And the MKZs.
I like that.
Yeah, like it. Like there's probably tech just specifically around it, just to write them out.
Yeah.
So here's a question. Unless you were you finished or?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you have your awakened mind and can use each power, you can then take Zro to become even more powerful at a cost. What happens if a non-awakened person takes Zro in the same way? Do they get the powers like temporarily, but are tainted and start being corrupted if their body can even handle that? Or does the Zro enhancement only work on people that have already activated these powers?
I would say it only works on the awakened mind.
I
Like
agree.
those who take it, it just burns them. Like just
Until it doesn't. Ooh, plot hook.
that too. Yeah.
Maybe that's a way that it,
I think
you know,
maybe
1%
it
of the
would
time awakens
expand.
people.
No, what were we
Go
gonna
ahead.
say?
I was going to say maybe the effect is actually that it expands your mind temporarily. And so if you have a limited power, it could probably give you more power. If you have a lot of power, you could do crazy things. And then if you have none, maybe you'll just instantly die, or maybe you'll have some after. Like,
I
Yeah, I like
do
that.
want to bring up. We also established Rose kind of pretty radioactive. So I imagine if you don't have the power, all the things, the stigma around Zero, if you take that and get nothing out of it, you're still getting irradiated as hell. Actually, that might be something that could be interesting. Of like, what if? Hear me out. Some people who've taken this road have kind of become their own offshoots of a race. That's short-lived, damn short-lived, but damn powerful.
Like some crazy mutation just out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I mean, but how long would they live?
Not long, but if they're able to possibly reproduce, creating a race like that that's short-lived, burns fast, but can do some crazy shit.
I mean, I'm just imagining I'm in a stressful situation. I'm about to die. I'm going to take the equivalent of space meth and mate.
what if when you're on SRO, you have the ability to sustain yourself? And so, sure, when you come off, your body's wrecked. But when you're on it, you literally can sustain your own life force. And so, what if there's these people that just never come off? Like, and if they did come off, they just turn into goo. Like,
I like the kind of
kinda-
watchouts from the MKZs and like others who have just found Zero on their own. They've banded together. I find these would be the major hunters of the pavers. These are the ones like we need a huge supply of Zero or we're dead. So let's get the biggest supply we can find.
To bring up earlier, something I said, I like it if they go off of it, they start to slow down and petrify until
Yeah.
that when they're fully off, they're a statue.
I like that.
Maybe they turn into Zero.
Harvest, yeah, maybe you can harvest body. Like, it's not like a great amount, but you could harvest their dead bodies, which could be like a little bit of this may be something that we could pursue down the road. But to one of Berger's points earlier is that maybe there's somebody that's just using these road tweakers, for lack of a better word, to do these great and wondrous things, and just harvesting the remnant Zero left behind.
I do want to bring up for Stellaris in particular, story-wise for that's actually how Zero in that setting works. It's ground up psychers.
I'm just imagining calling them fiends with a Z.
I like that.
I'm getting some Fallout vibes here.
Yeah,
I like it.
it's
I did
How
have a
prevalent is
question
that?
about community. I'm sorry.
I imagine people who are on Zero, at least the amount of people that are on it, I don't think it'd be all that rare considering the promise of it and the idea oh no, if you just keep taking the hit, you can live forever. You can keep yourself alive.
And they get maybe a month.
But what if the
between
quality
those-
of this row matters?
oh yeah.
And so if it's a low quality, sure, it'll give you that hit. Doesn't last long. And so you have people who are on this all the time, but they don't have the good stuff.
Yeah. but the MKs can metabolize it normally.
Yeah, I'd say the MKs maybe especially the special forces MKZs we were talking about, they're probably getting hit with pure Zero. Like if you got if you're an faction outfitting your troops, so you're giving them the good stuff just so they can stay alive long enough to what you needed them to do. And then for the tweakers who are trying probably buy Zero on the black market, this is that diluted, cut up, whatever they're doing to just make it the weakest sauce you can pretty have. And it just lasts for a little bit. They do something impressive, and pretty much they're burnt out.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, so again, I'm an MK.
Hmm?
I take a vial, or I'm not sure what the delivery system would be. Sure, I'm tainted forever, but do I need Zero to sustain myself, or does my body just process it and get rid of it over time?
I think as you take Zro, it doesn't leave your body. It never gets unprocessed. It's stuck in there, and as you go on, that's just a part of you now.
Okay.
But I do think you need more Zero to kind of sustain yourself. So
Yes.
yeah, and for those who like can live the longest with it, it can be like a sizable like repository when you're finally dead.
Yeah.
It's like a hell of a loot box.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, that could be the literal growths forming on your body. It's your body unable to, like, metabolize you used up this rope, but it's still in you. That's what's, like, forming these growths and possibly crystals or pustules or anything upon your body. And you can't just take them out.
Oh,
Right.
I'm just imagining he's dead. Quick, eat him.
Yeah. Especially these people, because banding together makes the MK stronger, but it's also he hasn't had his Zero in a while. He's getting a little bit stiffer. Let's take him out. Let's eat. Let's feed off him, and let's continue to do whatever we're doing.
I want to maybe take it a different direction. I know this would undo a lot of it, but what if those that I know we mentioned experimenting with Zero earlier on in the stream, but what if those people are the results of locations where that research was being done and there was some sort of an accident? Like, accidental exposure to Zero makes you dependent on Zero. Because I can't think of anybody, again, if you said, hey man, I've got this drug, if you get hooked on, you're going to get hooked on it, and it'll kill you if you don't take it for the rest of your life. You want some? I imagine a lot of people might say no.
I feel like if you say you could live forever with the other half of it,
Yeah.
the wealthy and the stupid would both gravitate towards it.
The liquid in a coffin that is produced over time from improper burials. People try to drink that and call it corpse liquor. I believe it or not, I do think they would still try.
Well, there's always somebody, right?
I think there could be definitely a big, maybe a colony that got hit with, maybe a colony where they're one of the species or factions was doing testing on it. Somebody cheaped out. Somebody fucked up. They all got exposed, and then they just spread. And they're this collective group of enhanced MKs who are enhanced by this Zero that are just run havoc through the galaxy.
God, imagine going to that planet and the ones that survived are already gone, but when you go there, all you see is the ruins of how that place got fucked up. Because we said earlier, you fuck with Zero too much, it's gonna make a big explosion. Just like people who are like stone statues that were all like the ones that didn't get out.
That's an interesting setting for adventure.
Definitely.
Oh no, we're gonna crash land. There's a colony there.
Yeah, a little bit of a twist on that. You could say that you have this elite force, very intentionally made to be an elite fighting force. Lots of resources. They almost always ingest peer or very close to peer. So they're actually they're good. But you also have this large segment of population, or maybe a colony, or maybe even a whole world. They didn't choose this. They don't have the elite stuff, but they know they can go eat all the MKs.
Yeah.
And so, you have this elite fighting force, but on the background, you have these crazy, scrappy, there's lots of us and we're very motivated. And they literally just try to hunt these people down.
I will suck the marrow from your bones.
Mad Max style.
There's one last thing I want to add to this, and it is kind of a big thing. What if after you die, you get petrified from not taking Zero? If you're reintroduced to it, if that's put back into you after you petrify, you come back.
That is an interesting twist.
That could that could be like, unless you're harvested, if you're a statue, someone gets enough Zro into you to like kickstart you back up, you come back.
Yeah.
That's terrifying. Of like, oh yeah, you actually could get immortal with this.
Now I'm imagining like fighting forces that are put into stasis and then awakened whenever.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Inject them. Inject the MKZs.
Some of the factions have like their elite warriors. They're just, okay, you've served your time. You're going to be stoned for a while. We'll wake you up when we need you.
That's it. I want to immediately establish something. The what were they called again? The 8-legged race and the hiss. None of them. I don't think any of them should be hooked on Zro because that's too terrifying. However, feel free to say no to that and have just like either a hiss or one of those like non-playable races be dead hooked on it and be one of the most terrifying motherfuckers out in the galaxy right now.
I think for the hiss, they sound like they live a long time already. It seems like they would avoid anything that shortens their lifespan. I don't know about the assembly. The assembly, actually, no, the assembly we said they're in the back of the paver, so they revere Zro. But we could definitely not now, but another time make another species that maybe just be hooked on it, and it's just like they're the ones that whose planet their home world was used by one of the other factions to test Zero out on, and then the experiment went bad and they spread through the stars.
We could have it be more like a subspecies that can go with any of like the other races, kind of like how Heritage is for Pathfinder or Starfinder, where anyone can be turned into this quote-unquote sub-race. The Fiends.
I agree.
Oh, one
Does anybody else
comment
have
on
anything for powers before we move on?
I had an idea for the hiss, right? As time goes on, they get stronger in the powers. What if that's because they become more enlightened through their understanding of other cultures?
Oh yeah, with the connecting of minds. That makes sense why they would kind of go out and learn about new cultures too. Yeah.
I like how like the connecting of minds is the main thing of the power, but Zro immediately turns it on its head and fucks it all up. Like, yeah, you could connect with minds, or you could snort the stardust and eat your friend.
It's like bringing an 8-ball of coke to a hippie commune.
I think, especially with them not being able to touch the power or touch the MKs, it'd be funny if the Arquin were the ones who were doing all these ridiculous experiments on it. They're the ones who caused that big fuck up with the planet being blown up and these people hitting the stars because they were all they're trying to both militarize it and find a way to put it into their own people without using their own people.
Holy shit! What if they're just straight up allergic to Zro?
Yeah, it could be.
Like, yeah, this is our main power. Don't mind the fact it's highly radioactive. I gotta wear this suit. You're roaches. You're immune to radiation. No, I gotta wear this suit, man. It's super radioactive.
Better safe than sorry.
We have safety standards for a reason. We have
No, the moment they touch the stuff that gets into them, they're just croaks dead on the
I
ground.
agree.
So it's like
It
raid.
would be like a person that doesn't have any powers taking Zro. They just die.
Yeah. Which is why you never see the Arquin touch it. Like they're always like hazmat suited up, and like they say, "Oh, we're just a safety. We're all about efficiency." But they're just deathly afraid of anybody realizing they don't have the power.
Literally, it is just them. Like, we're all about safety of our workers here for that specific thing. Anywhere else, it's like,
Oh yeah.
what are you doing? Put your shirt back on. I don't care if it's 120 degrees in here.
Any other time you're expendable, but around this, safety matters.
Like, you think I would have spent the extra money on metal for handrails? Watch your step, bucko.
I kind of see this as they're like, oh yeah, we don't want you to get addicted, but also we want to drive up the demand of our product. Like you get hooked on it. Oh, that's so unfortunate. You need more, whatever.
I can see that the Arquid using other species for them. Like, okay, yeah, I mean, we've got this row. Here you go. Our species, I mean, we're above taking that. But if you need it, here you go.
We don't have one single reported addict. No addicts.
We're a civilized species. We're
Yeah.
We
Hey,
civilized
you want-
people, says the
Hey.
cockroach.
Yeah, you want some of my Dead Star space meth? Let's go.
And again, it's such a contrast to like how the power is, where it's like a genuine connection with another person.
So here's two thoughts. One is if you're connected with somebody via the power or attuned with their mind or whatever, and one of you takes Zro, does it also affect the other person somehow?
I'm wondering if it would break your link.
That would be interesting.
Oh, I like that a lot.
Like you're essentially ascending to another level, so to speak. And that the Zro taints that sort of pure connection that you have, the organic one. Does that jive?
No, I feel like it'd break your link. I feel like before your link's broken, though, you get like a small, like just almost like steroid-like amp out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Very fleeting. It fades. Whoever you were linked to, you just feel that break collapse.
Yeah. Like a phantom.
And then second thought, and feel free to shoot this down if this is too like restrictive or anything, but what if it's like typically, let's say 1% of the galaxy is MK connected. Of all those people, like most of them are tainted by Zro. Like it's culturally like, oh, you're an MK, you gotta like the expectation is eventually you're gonna get into this. To where finding people that are still pure is even more rare, maybe. I'm just trying to like reconcile that like this Zro thing is really cool and we all seem pretty excited about it, but also MKs are pretty rare, and then having a subset of them be this might make it even more rare. So
I'd imagine they'd likely have a stigma attached to them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even if, even because again, it's one of those things where we're talking about a galaxy of billions. If people know that you're an MK, oh, you can read my mind or whatever. Even that's not true, or you've got X-ray vision, you pervert, or whatever. Fill in the blank. I imagine a lot of.
Why would I want to sit next to a person who can turn me inside out when they sneeze?
Exactly. Yeah, that kind of crazy belief systems. And I guess like the more rural you get, the more outlandish maybe. Like it's just they don't know. So they assume like that the MKs are just all MKZs. Like they don't know. I imagine there'd be that stigma attached.
Because I think about how
maybe not be a majority of them being hooked on Zero, but the stories like are told about the ones who are like, because they're addicts, so they're doing crazy shit to get more Zero. So their stories probably outweigh any of the ones who like have that natural connection. So whenever like you turn on the news, it's like, oh, Zero addict blew up a spaceport to get his last fix. And like these people, like even like the regular MKs can do crazy things. So people are just, if you've got the power, they don't really like. They're
There's no distinction in their mind.
Yeah.
Maybe this is why the galaxy's in decline.
Ooh.
Yeah.
The fear of Zero.
Yeah, no, it went from,
addiction.
oh yeah, we can synthesize this for the ancient technology to, we need to make our own tech now.
What if
We can't touch this anymore.
What if I snort it? Oh, that's awesome.
Which does feel believable for people.
Imagine like it's like, oh, I got plutonium here. What if I ingest it as a joke?
No, look at what happened with uranium. We put that stuff on our teeth.
Yeah.
Very durable teeth. But I'm just like, I'm imagining like someone coming in and be like, we have this power plant, that is powered by Piers Row and the entire planet benefits. And then there's like one dude's like, what if I snort it? That's happening everywhere.
Yeah, which is why Galaxy, because a lot of like those ancient like civilization like power structures are getting hit by the addicts to feed their addiction.
Mm-hmm.
No, imagine you're like tomb raiding and you get to like this ancient artifact and you don't care anything about it. It's like shit to you. You just like crack it open like, okay, we're good. We're not 30 men, but we're all good.
Let's go.
No. Here's an interesting, again, with the connection with others that are other MKs or that jive with you. What if one of them perishes? Does that have a significantly negative effect? You feel it.
What if it
You lose your power.
Oh, that's a pretty intense one. And lose your power. Shit.
I think that would be cool, but it might have some challenges. I don't know.
I think for those who unlock their power by pairing up, I think that would fit as well. But for the others who kind of maybe unlocked it in different means, like they would still be able to, they would sense the death, feel it, but not be depowered due to it.
Oh man.
I want to counter with, what if it made you stronger, that in the fact that like you still have that person's presence with you now, and that's part of your power. You just still feel them. They're still with you in a way.
Right, because if they died, that means they never use throw, because throw makes you immortal. So, like, I think that's would work really well. That's pretty cool.
Like it strengthens you. If
You basically get what they had for their power on top of yours. They become almost like a part of you.
Which,
and I would say that's just for that rare case where you have that like true connection.
Yeah. But that sounds like a terrifying thing, because if somebody that's power hungry makes that connection, suddenly they're connected to this person that wants them dead because they want to become more powerful.
It's like the idea, the true nature of this is something very positive and beautiful, and then other people are like, well, what if I could simply become more powerful?
So we've out here rule of two, the zero.
Yeah, essentially.
So the hiss. If the hiss finds someone they connect with, they can kill them and take their power. Which is why hiss don't group up.
If the hiss found someone, they protect that someone with their lives until their own, like that someone's own natural demise.
I like it being like the war with the hiss started due to that. Like they started like grouping up amongst each other, but then like they disagreed. They wanted to become more powerful, and that's why they initially like conflicted and had to like spread out amongst the galaxy.
Can you imagine the death matches?
Yeah,
like the arena matches for whoever succeeds here is the greatest of us all. And then there's so few of us left. How sad.
How did this happen?
Who could have done this? Who could have seen this coming?
I kind of like to imagine that out there, and I know this conflicts with like the hiss do not take throw, but there is one hiss out there that is that is so powerful and had killed so much of his own species and so old and ancient, but had snorted so much throw on top of that. He's just this petrified asteroid. This massive petrified asteroid that no one goes and touches. That could be a galaxy phenomenon. Just like, you don't go there. You die.
Or it's a rumor.
Yeah.
It's a room. I like that.
And lucky if Zero Hauler lands on it and reawakens the old bastard.
Yeah,
that would also be a great campaign. Just like, oh shit, someone woke him up.
But for that, we do need to move on from the power to technology. Who is technology? Keith, you are up. So I think we've actually answered a lot of these questions.
Yeah.
Actually, we didn't answer how advanced. So there was technology and resources. The three questions we have: how advanced is technology? How is travel between worlds facilitated? We've already got that one down. And then how advanced is AI, and what role does it play in the galaxy? You get first crack at this.
I'll start by saying that AI is extremely advanced and ancient, and also outlawed.
Yeah.
I just want to use it to write haikus and make funny pictures. What's so bad about that?
That there is a whole AI thing out there, possibly hunting the pavers and eating stars. I understand why they like banned.
I think it's like the only thing the Hiss, the Assembly, and the Ray Quinn agree on is that AI is terrible and it should be banned from the galaxy.
Every race except the humans agree. No AI. The humans.
I don't know what the dwarves or the Mangasi. because the dwarves, Mangasi, and humans are all the younger species, but the Arquin are the ones that are descendants of the ancient species. The Assembly saw the downfall of the ancient species, and the Hiss are the oldest of these species. So all three of them like saw like all the, or at least have stories of all the crazy shit that went down. Like no AI.
Yeah, I like to think the Mangasi like relied a lot on primitive AI in there as their civilization grew, and then once they got into contact with other civs and they gave all these stories about like, oh, actually AI is terrible, they're like, oh, okay, I guess if we're going to be a part of this community, we kind of have to curve that back. But they're still like kind of pushing at the boundaries, like, oh, this technically is an AI. It's just a very sophisticated algorithm, and they're pushing those boundaries more so. Where the other species are like absolutely going nowhere near that.
Artificial intelligence? No, this is a virtual intelligence.
Yes.
Don't mind the AI shackle file that's on there.
I can see the Assembly like hardcore saying no thank you to the idea of AI, just because they see it as tools, like, and they don't want to make a tool that is greater than themselves.
Yeah.
And at that point, they become the tool.
And I can see the humans and maybe the dwarves just being little shits. They're like, we do what we want.
Yeah.
Hey, there could be an actual like playable AI race of like, oh yeah, we woke up. What's this about a ban on our entire species?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
The younger species might just look at it and be like, no, you guys are just telling this to keep us down. This is a way for us to, catch back up.
Yeah,
Exactly. I can
we
see
gotta
that.
bridge. We gotta bridge the gap.
Wait till the first human who's like super adamant about that sees a Star Eater for the first time. It's just William Dafoe looking up.
The I was thinking about the Star Eaters. So like
Did have
typically,
questions.
what's up?
What's it-
No, go. You're good.
Okay. I was thinking about the Star Eaters, and like they typically have been on the fringes of the galactic network that we've talked about. So like very rarely interacting with them, except if you're like the explorers on the edge of the frontier. But now that we have the pavers creating new stars, Star Eaters are like, oh wait, there's this star over there I can go grab. That's in the middle of like galactic, commerce and trade, and so there's starting to be more conflict between the various factions and races and Star Eaters, and it takes like an entire army to even have a chance of dealing with a Star Eater. And maybe that's where a lot of like the Zero addicts were being deployed and then causing problems after the fact, is dealing with these incursions of Star Eaters.
And to go back over it, the Star Eaters are mechanical in nature, right?
Yeah. They're AI left over from the ancient races.
I want to introduce to them the possibility that they are regenerating. You can kill them, but afterwards you gotta bring them somewhere else because they're going to start putting themselves back together. They're almost attracted to their own pieces, trying to pull themselves back together to continue on.
One of those ones you have to burn every piece for it to truly be gone.
Pretty much.
Yeah, and I'm picturing them as like being moon or planet-sized robots, so that's a feat unto itself to get rid of every little piece.
Let me just use this technology for my own. Why is it pointing at me?
Yeah.
You might be able to damage them enough that they flee, but actually destroying them.
You can knock them up, quote unquote, unconscious for a while, enough to drag them out to a more tasty star, if you're brave enough to drag them.
I like that. So the factions, especially if they're strong enough to bring one out, it's a kind of their own little death note for the other factions. Okay, we knocked this one out. We'll drag this into your solar system when he's about to wake up. He's your problem now.
Holy that would be the most fucked up way of like accidentally the wormhole going the wrong direction. Of like, yeah, let's send this here. What is this third planet from the sun? Earth? And that being the human's first interaction of like a what eater in our solar system?
I can only
Just
imagine.
flying through the wormhole and someone just going, "Your problem now."
Right? Like it's just starting to boot up and they're like, like figuratively like pushing it through the door. Oh man.
Perfect. So yeah, we got AI is depending on which species, fairly advanced, but the oldest of the species kind of cling to the ancients and do not like it. Um, in general, and we don't have to get like specific with this, but how advanced is technology in this galaxy? And it's something we've got two splits too, like the ancients technology that some have been able to co-opt, as well as kind of like created technology.
Ancient technology I do want to introduce, like it's basically like magic. We don't know how it works exactly. We know it works. There's a genuine logic to it, but it is so advanced, like we can't reproduce this yet. We know it runs on its own, but a lot of like the interworkings, you can't reproduce ancient technology. You just kind of have it. You get it to work. If it gets destroyed, it's actually pretty easy to put it back together, but you can't make more. That's what I like the idea of for ancient.
I agree.
Yeah.
What if created technology or like modern technology is enough ahead of real world current technology to still be sci-fi? Like there's spaceships and stuff,
Yeah.
but like not so far ahead to where it's drastically different than what we do here. Like yeah, maybe there's holograms and like energy shields, but like nothing. Nobody, because like this, I'm picturing like the galaxy has been so reliant on ancient tech for so long that they've just been using that to achieve a lot of the advanced things. But I'm trying to think about like there's no like Dyson spheres or things like that, like from constructed technology where they've like created massive all sorts. Everything is relying upon the ancient tech in a way.
Definitely, I would kind of put it like almost like the Star Wars versus Star Trek type thing. Like because Star Wars like has some advanced shit, but most of it's like really just some of our stuff could be better than theirs.
Yeah.
But some of the advanced technologies like that Star Trek where they can like, oh, I can transport you across the galaxy, or I can replicate something. That's like the ancient tech.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Just imagining like, okay, so we have this machine from the ancients that can just produce food. How the fuck? How do we mass produce?
Yeah.
Do we have anything even close? Let me try. That's a perfectly cooked steak.
Yeah, right. It's like, we've got agriculture.
Yeah, so like we could probably like if we can fly, we can colonize moons, like we could mine asteroids, we can do all that. Like that's all technology we have. Like nuclear power probably have that, but yeah, we don't have anything like teleportation or yeah.
Ooh, on the topic of colonies and technology, I do kind of like for dwarves and humans if we're more like AI, like, yeah, that's good. You're just trying to keep us down. That the AI possible quote unquote species or race, that they're usually the ones first to touch down and help colonize a planet for the humans for them to even step forward. Since, they don't need food, water, barely need shelter, they just need a place to recharge. Plus, some of them's been hooked to be powered on this road, and they're good for a while.
I like it.
I did have a couple of questions on technology though, and I'll throw them to the group. The first one, and this is because I'm maybe this is bad, but when we talk about communications, we talk about these people that can communicate over distance. Is that a job where you're like, wow, you're an honored member of society, or is that not a choice? You're hooked up to a computer and they just take the information from your mind.
I like that. I think it depends on almost like what group has you.
Yeah.
Like some, like you are like the honored like emissary to your people, and others are like, "Ooh, you can do that? Come with us, and you'll never see your family again."
Yeah, right. It's like, I need to go to the bathroom. Shut up.
I also like the idea of somewhere in the middle ground. there are a few people who have to do it where they're not really powerful and it's just a big group in the office building, and they have to sort through occasionally the thoughts of the galaxy and how weird or fucked up those might be. It's just like 4 more hours. The pay's worth it, but damn, it does this great on my soul.
And so then the other one I was thinking about, who's the race that you had created, the insectoids that
Oh, the Arquin.
Arquin. So I was thinking, what if the Arquin, they understand the ancient technology better than anyone else, and specifically, they found a way to stabilize wormholes, so it's reliable. And if you want to pay them a fee, they will allow you to use it.
I like that.
I love that a lot, and that is beautiful. Microtransaction travel. Oh, hey, if you never come back, it's because you cheaped out.
Yeah, so there'll be like they control most of the trade. They control. If you don't want to use it, okay, rock on.
Good
Go
luck.
right ahead. I hope you make it there. I hope you.
The color. It's a little hard to tell right now which one it is. I hope you don't go through hell.
Yeah.
And people swear that sometimes the Arquin just start attacking some ships just to make it look a little bit more dangerous when others don't arrive.
Now, on the other side of that coin, maybe they figured out a way to make them unstable.
Huh?
Oh my god.
Maybe they're actually stable.
What if they were stable at one point? Then the Arquid fucked with Zro a little bit too much before all the powers came out. And suddenly, oh, now we're hearing stories. And it's like, we got a fix for this. We need to fix this right now. Wait a second. I have an idea that can triple profits.
I like it with the mix of the two. Like with the Arquin, like they see like the wormholes, which is straight stable. Like the pavers are able to make them. Anybody can go through them. The Arquin introduced like this. Use the technology to make them unstable and make people pay the fees, and they can turn it on and off as they wished for a while. But with the introduction of the power, sometimes it doesn't. Like once they've made them stable in the past, just become unstable unknowingly, and their tech can make it stable for them as they go through, but otherwise they can't control it or predict it.
Yeah, I love how a lot of the galaxy's problems so far can be just summarized as, and the Arquin decided to fuck around and find out.
The Arquin attempted to devise a new way to make money.
Yeah.
The Arquin had a plan.
The best part is it always ends with them just making money.
The galaxy suffers, but our profits have never soared as high.
Yeah. The
We had a
galaxy,
slight dip here, but it rebounded really well.
the galaxy's in peril, but we've never been richer.
I'm probably going to play an Arquin for my first character in the first campaign. I'm going to be real. I love these little guys. Oh, how tall are the Arquin? That's something I gotta ask. So far, we don't have any like small races except maybe the dwarves. Are they like big, medium?
I feel like they're like tall and spindly, but like they're not nowhere near as tall as the Hiss. They're probably they're about human height, but just very, very thin. Like just hard carapaces, but just really just condensed.
I'm picturing the Pokemon Pheromosa, if that can.
I'm not familiar with that. I'll have to look that
Yeah, I can
up.
drop it in the picture in the Discord chat.
All right. So
I
think, go ahead.
It's insectoid, like you're saying, long and spindly, but
Yeah.
Maybe a little less cutesy.
Yeah.
yeah, not that aspect of it for these guys, but
I know. I'm just teasing that. Oh, it makes sense, 100%.
So I think next is major factions.
Yeah. We've got some of our species. Let's go through it. Let's go through and make some of these factions. We'll probably do this portion a little bit. Actually, I think we'll skip factions for today, unless anybody disagrees. I think with some of the species we've kind of made some factions already, and we can make those a little bit more during some of our session zeros if the group agrees.
I do agree, because with how quote unquote new the frontier is, it makes sense that some things are coming and going real fast while others are there. Like the corporation. Uh, an empire that will never die so long as the dollar remains.
Yeah. Earth dollars.
All right, so we'll move from there to galactic history. So we've went through, Alex. We've made a couple of the big species. Who would you say are like the key powers of this galaxy? Like, who would you say are like the leading people? Or you can answer any of the other ones: major historical events or recent galactic events.
Well, I'll tell you right now, the Arquin sound like they are the most power driven, so to speak. Haha, because they don't have any. But it seems like they're the most about establishing some sort of control with the tolls, so to speak, and trying to leverage the other species to do things for them and stuff like that. It feels like they hold a certain level of prestige and a bit of mystery. I don't know if it would make sense to have like a collective governing sort of thing, like in Mass Effect, the Citadel. I think that's what it was called. Yeah. I don't know if that would make sense, because I feel like a lot of these different factions have their own agendas, so to speak. Like,
I'm not sure if it makes sense, like for like the Citadel, where like, or I forgot what they were called, where they could basically like rule over the other ones, but like a League of Nations UN type, where they've got like authority, but if you just say fuck off, they can't really do much to you.
yeah, I mean, yeah, that makes sense more for like a meeting place of sorts, and then to establish trade and stuff like that between. So I think something like that maybe makes more sense. Not necessarily we rule you, but we strike deals here.
I like that. I think we could even combine that with the what was it, the binary juncture. That two planet connected by the wormhole of cities in between the two planets. That could be the spot, like the galactic meeting place, where the various factions, governments meet, hash out stuff, and where deals are made and power is gathered.
And I'd imagine that was likely built by the Arquin. Or like maybe because okay, the juncture in itself who was that built by? The ancients?
Yeah.
Okay. So I feel like they might have sought that, the Arquin might have seen that as a place of significance and probably built something there and made that like the galactic hub, so to speak, for trade and agreements and stuff like that.
I bet the Arquins settled there, built some additional add-ons to it, but are never really forthcoming about what they did versus what the ancients did.
Oh, 100%. Mystery, intrigue. What do you think it is? It's probably that. We'll never tell. And I mean, I imagine it's really a sight to behold. But I feel like that would be, and maybe, I don't know. I know we mentioned the UN earlier, but maybe I'm leaning a little bit too much into Mass Effect here, but a sort of collective sort of military where they deal with events like from the Star, I'm blanking on the name.
Star Eaters.
Star Eaters. I was thinking Star Killer. I'm like, no, they eat them. So like as like a sort of defense against some of the Star Eaters, maybe. I'm not.
I feel like that would be headed by the Hiss, to have a like conjoined military presence that can be used to protect the galaxy as needed.
I agree. Yeah, I think the Hiss may head that up, and maybe like the Star Eaters, because I think we saw the Star Eaters like being actually documented as a recent piece. So maybe the Hiss started trying to pull people together to actually combat them, and base it out of the binary junction.
Okay, I think something like that could work. Yeah.
Each squad is assigned a hiss.
Yeah.
Good luck.
I'm trying to think of like what sort of like crappy nickname humans would give the Hiss. Like, never mind. We'll come back to that. I'll think of something.
What do you mean by what do you mean by a crappy nickname?
Like like a derogatory nickname. Like
Oh,
yeah. Face. Yeah.
We
And
could
one
have
thing
it
I
where
think-
they eat rocks and have something with that.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure we'll get something.
Yeah.
What would you say, Tegan?
Oh, one thing I was thinking of too is we've got like the binary junction. It sounds like kind of like the two species that like reach out or look. Well, there's three species that reach out, but ones are very small. The Hiss just don't have a lot of people to reach out with. But it seems like the Mangasi and the Arquin are like the two that like try to find and bring new species into the fold, but for very different reasons. Like the Mangasi are trying to learn about them. Like they're probably like the preferred diplomats of this group on the binary juncture, where the Arquin are like, there's stories about planets that have been discovered by them that have been promised a lot but never actually made it to the galactic civilization because they just got strip mined of anything worthwhile and left behind.
Yeah, and I feel like we got a lot of more species to flesh out.
Oh, and that's nice with a big galaxy. We can have a. It's not like a fantasy world where you have to like make every species like come from a certain continent or something like this. We can add species as needed as we go through.
So, the next major question, which will it be?
Sweet. So, yeah, we're getting low on time, so let's hit the closing questions. So we've already kind of gone with the ongoing source of tension and the conflict. We actually got the focal planet of the galaxy too, as well as the role of the galaxy. What role does the galaxy play, the power play in the galaxies? We already knocked those out. So one of the questions, I'm going to read that now, but we're not going to answer that right yet. Take a moment to think. It's going to be a hard one. What's the name of the galaxy? Oh, but let me look through my notes, see if there's anything else major we haven't touched on.
So this is the in-universe name for the galaxy, right?
In-universe name, yeah.
Harbinger could be a very good one.
What was it?
Harbinger.
Harbinger?
That sounds pretty intense. Like it's bringing bad news. Last Harbinger I remember, that was Commander Shepard.
Any other?
I mean, Milky Way feels a little bit too on the nose. Not sure.
Oh, we can come back to
Yeah,
that one another time.
Like I want to incorporate the Zro into the name somehow, but it just feels like it would make sense. Is that crazy?
Having like Zoraxia or something like that, or
Zorro. There we go.
Zorro.
Oh boy, I'm not sure, but I think it's one that we're going to want to come back to because
Yeah. Names are the hardest.
oh,
well, I
The
know
boundary.
we'll come back to that one as we maybe like for the first session we play in the galaxy. We'll see if we can come up with a name either before or during that and get to name it out.
Well, you mentioned earlier, I like the astral star. Is that like the center of the galaxy? Could that
Yeah.
be something good to use as also a name for the galaxy as a whole? Or, I mean, it sounds very cool to me. It's a good name, which is why I was drawn to it. But I don't know.
The astral eye for the galaxy as a whole, and then the scar through the eye.
Australis.
Australis.
I like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it just feels like it makes sense with the astral scar.
Yeah.
All right. Well, did you guys like it? I'm game. Let's go.
Stralis, we got it.
All right. Hey.
Perfect. We're about to wrap, but is there any questions that you guys have that we haven't touched on today? Or anything like just we should consider before we conclude our first session building out the galaxy? And viewers, I know I mentioned this before. There'll probably be some one shots here and now between now and late November. But this will initially it'll be Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Once Occupation's finished, definitely go watch Occupation. We're near the end game for that. The team is doing some crazy shit as they go fight against the Yuuzhan Vong in the Star Wars galaxy. So check that out. But yeah, so it'll be a little bit before we bring this one in. But keep an eye out for our Session 0 coming soon.
Okay.
But back to you guys. Is there any questions? I think I've got everything I wanted to put in there. I've got to go through and finish typing some of my notes and like putting it into readable words. But
I mean, I'm thinking about like different like species that are just straight up non-PC characters, and that there's no diplomatic way of approaching them. Kind of like we're spacefaring animals, so to speak.
yeah,
I'm thinking about the I forget their name now, but
Arachnid, yeah.
well, the Arachnid one. I'm thinking about the bugs from Starship Troopers. The movie.
yeah.
Like they exist, they're spacefaring, but there is no communicating with them.
I mean, there was the third movie.
I only saw the one with I only saw the first one.
Yeah, I think
Better. I will say though, if you haven't read the book, definitely read the book.
It's on my list, my long list of things.
It's a short book too. Short book.
It got a little higher on the list. Let me look that up. Let me see how much that sucker costs.
One thing we might want to maybe talk about in the last couple minutes is, Tegan, you mentioned there are higher powers in the galaxy, and unless we want to say that's like the ancients or something, we never really addressed anything to go into more detail with that. But
we didn't get into that too much. I know two of them at least were the Pavers and the Star Eaters.
I want
yeah,
to
I guess.
propose gravity itself as a higher power, since that right there helps dictate the laws of physics. Not a sentient one by any means, but something people could draw upon, perhaps? Question mark.
And something that people worship.
I pray to gravity.
That's pretty cool.
Praise to gravity, changes gravity.
Yeah, all right. May you stay grounded.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking of things like say to each other as like a,
The beginnings of the birth of a star begins with gravity welling, coalescing into a singular fine point.
Yeah.
So we could have, if the Pavers are the higher power, the creation of life itself, they could theoretically be the higher power. But the problem is if you have the good guys, you got to have the bad guys. And we could do some Starship Troopers, some alien horde add-on of like, yeah, the Pavers are the creation of life itself, and the Great Enlightenment is now happening, which means the cycle is about to go away, and the opposite of the Pavers could show up.
Well, I think we've got the Star Eaters as the opposite of the creator or the Pavers, but I do like some species that is just like feeding almost off this new creation that is just like not even like sentient, really. Like something that is just like almost a plague of locusts that just descends.
Here's a curveball.
Yeah.
What if they specifically seek out, the ones that are sensitive to MK?
I like that.
I keep forgetting. Is it multikinesis?
Yeah.
Okay. The ones that possess the power of multikinesis are essentially a beacon to these creations, and they're not. That people don't know their origin. all they can do is prepare and hope that they don't show up.
I like those. Like those things are like they can travel through space. The vacuum won't harm them. Some theorize they can even make their own wormholes, and they just one day you look up and see this mass floating towards your planet, and then your planet's never heard from again.
Yeah, the skies darken, and then the ground reddens.
I also want to bring up the Star Eaters could be one of those powers, since you can't really kill them. You just knock them out for a while. You flare off of them and they turn off, but they come back on. Especially to AI, that's going to be a species. Some of them being more radical and being like, the Omnisire.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
we definitely need to do like for one of these races, and I don't know who would fit for one of the older races. Like they made AI before they realized AI was like terrible, and that AI is still just running around. Like it's still like just off on the galaxy doing its thing.
You know who I want to suggest for that, because they've been the cause of every issue.
Obviously, the Assembly. I mean, they're just trouble.
No, but I actually think it would make sense for the Hiss to have done that. Tried to pull it off, but they made it so strong and military based that they couldn't. If it happened after like their numbers started to dwindle for one reason or another, even like before the powers kicked off, they didn't have the force. The AI escaped, and now it's a galaxy's issue.
What if someone tried to destroy the AI and the Hiss in their honor protected them, and it turns out they shouldn't have?
Oh, that's also good.
It's life, but it's silicone-based life.
These things are intelligent and can make their own decisions. Wait, they made the wrong decision.
Wait, they ate our moon. What the hell?
They can make their own decision. The star blows up in the background. They chose wrong. Kill them.
Yeah.
To fit with the Arquin being like the cause of most of the issues, the Hiss made these guys. These guys were like these AI were doing pretty well, helping. Or they're part of like this war between the Hiss and themselves. Where the Arquin decided just to jump in and like AI are terrible. Attack a few AI, then the AI goes rogue and starts just fucking everything up. And the Arquin's like, "See, we told you they're bad."
How can you not look at the Arquin and go, damn, these Starscream ass motherfuckers, I love them.
I promise my first character is going to be the friendliest Arquin you've ever met.
And it just happens. The Arquin the next day introduced a device to help destroy AI.
Oh, yeah.
We had something that works for you.
Good thing we're here, guys.
I just want to bring up the possibility we could all play a full party of Arquin, trying not to fuck up, and then produce a new conflict in the galaxy for a
Oh man,
the Arquin basically like be like the Arquin. What are the missionaries? Like they just send a bunch of young ass kids out into the galaxy. It's like do good, just
be
wait.
kind.
Coming up,
spend more money.
Man, so I got a question.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you start this at like 5 p.m. Eastern, dude? We got too much.
No.
I should have realized it would take a lot more time than I thought in my head. But this is great. Last thoughts. Anything else that people want to capture today?
What's the first? I know this is too early to ask, but what's the first game going to be with stars without numbers? What you thinking?
I'm not sure what system I want to use first. Because what I think, because initially I was thinking of stars without numbers. I'm not sure. Because depending on timing, I may try to sneak a one shot or two in before we get to kind of a full campaign. And that'll probably be either Scum and Villainy or Stars Without Numbers, something easy to build a character in, so you don't have to spend too much time on it. Or maybe even Alien. Alien's not hard to build a character in, especially. What did we name that locust species? Did we name that? I don't think I have it written down.
The one that hunts
locust
MK? No, we didn't name that.
No, they're nameless.
My brain immediately was like, yes, the flood. Wait, no.
But actually, I like that, the nameless. Like, one of those ones like they just none of the species want to give it a name because it's too terrible, so everybody just calls it the Nameless.
When
Oh.
you go to say, yeah, you
Oh.
know, those,
Yeah.
everyone just knows exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like the more you talk about it, the more likely like there are to find you that fear. Given what the MKs do and the stories around them, that might be the genuine common belief, even if it's not true.
And then like imagine like communities like what is it? Outright like just hating the MKs, like not wanting them to be on their planet out of fear of causing the Nameless to descend on their home world or whatever. I can. You should have started at 5, man. We'd still be here.
We would still be here. I think that was cool. I feel like the MK started off something like beautiful. Like it was just like this connection like between like people and being able to expand it, kind of with that infection spreading. But then the Nameless came in. People found out about Zero enhancing them, and the MKZs came in, and now they're just reviled and feared, and some still trying to cling to that old prestige they had.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Probably the hiss going like, "This is a beautiful thing," while all the while the fiends in the back try and break down every bit of ancient tech they can just to snort its power source.
Just to get like a little drop of the good stuff. Oh man, I love that. Like we all kind of like just agree that it's just like snorting coke. That's my.
I think it has to do with me describing it as like, oh, it's a slime mold that can be turned into powder.
Yeah,
that does make sense. I was just thinking about the real life application. Never mind. Yeah.
I think unless anybody has any last minute thoughts, that is where we will wrap up our creation of the galaxy today.
Yeah.
So viewers, thank you guys for hanging out. We've had some really strong viewership with this too. So shout outs to you guys for watching through with us there. As I said, I'm going to be putting this on the Conco website and trying to make it public for everyone. Initially starting with the party, and then once we get it edited and like other people other than me look it over because I'm bad with typos and grammatical pieces, we will make it open for everybody else to check it out and kind of see the galaxy that we built together. Stay tuned. I'm not sure when our first one shot will be. It'll probably be sometime in October, November-ish. It'll be on a Tuesday though, 7 p.m. Eastern time. So keep a lookout for that. I will post it as far the link in as far in advance as we can to get a chance to come see this played out at the table. I think that's everything. Outside of that, I'll say shout out. Come to see us tomorrow for Pandemonium. It's Kosir's Day, one of my God of Celebrations drink day. So come and enjoy that. And then come next Tuesday, we're back at it with Occupation as we are getting into the retaking of Mandalore from the Yuzon Vong, or the assassination of Mandalore the person. Don't know how to phrase that yet because it could be both, depending on what the group does. So come check us out. But thanks for hanging out. And